Hello. Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard, and sitting across from me in a pair of green khakis and a black top is...
a lot of bug bites.
Is...
Monica Padman.
Monica Padman. Today, we are going to talk with... well, to be honest, this is the first time we've had a guest on who is a bona fide armcherry, like a super armcherry.
Yeah, she's a big fan.
Big fan. In fact... When I was working with her handsome husband, Ashton Kutcher, she would pull me into a room and just give me the what to about the previous episode, which I found very flattering.
Yeah.
And she agreed to come on under one condition, that I tell a very humiliating story that I unveil at the end.
I hope that most people who come on from here on out require that of you.
That I tell an embarrassing story. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a good gimmick. Yeah. I won't run out of embarrassing stories because I'm doing them real time daily.
You have a new one every day.
I do almost once a week. I have something I'm kind of embarrassed about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a human thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Although we did establish that I'm brazen because I've pooped my pants a bunch of times. It kind of demonstrates that I'm a little too adventurous.
Put yourself out there.
I do a little too much sometimes in public. At any rate, just so delighted that Mila Kunis is our guest today, and she is so fun and seemingly just carefree about telling it like it is. It's refreshing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She owns her
being
body and
yeah.
Well, yeah, she does.
Of course.
In a great way. And her mind, her body and her mind. She owns.
I know what I want to say on that point.
Say.
She's our first female guest to pee in front of all of us in the attic.
Sure.
That was a big development. And I applaud it.
It was a big day.
It was a big day for everyone. And thank you, Mila. And please enjoy Mila Kunis. She's amazing. Also, please check out The Spy Who Dumped Me, which is her new movie, and it comes out August 3rd, 2018, the year of our Lord.
2018. What if this came out in 2019?
That would be a real long lead.
Yeah, it would.
Hey guys, next summer, get ready for The Spy Who Dumped Me. Please enjoy Mila Kunis.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
Mila Kunis, pull your mic a little closer to your... yeah, there you go. I just want to, before we even start, I just want to applaud you because you're the first person to pee in the room with all of us in here. I feel...
Where does everybody else go to pee? Do they just not pee?
I go right here, and my wife goes, "You're going to get sued." And that's how it goes. Yeah.
We normally step out for guests. We leave.
But not for me.
Not for me.
Monica, have you gone in here while we're all...
Not when a guest is in here, but when you guys are in here.
Wait, you didn't? I was in here.
Yeah. Side note though about Monica, doesn't pee very often. Like I get worried about
kind of
her.
like a camel. I know. I don't.
Like, do camels not pee a lot either?
Well, they.
I know that they can go a long time without
I think
water.
they don't pee a lot. I'll check.
I'm not sure about this one.
I'll double check it. I'll fact check it.
But you were saying you've never done a podcast, which is kind of crazy at this stage of the game because you've promoted millions of things since they've been popular.
Yes. Podcasts, I feel like, are kind of new. Maybe I'm late to the game. I don't know.
No, I think they're having like a moment. But I guess probably Serial brought a lot of people in. You never listened to Serial?
Yeah, I did, but I don't look at it as a podcast, I guess.
Okay. Well, it is.
I listened to Serial, and like 10 years ago, I think in the early stages of podcasts, one of my best friends was doing like a super nerd podcast, if you want to call it that. And I was like, I'll jump on it. And we talked like World of Warcraft, right?
Oh, okay. So you did that.
Fun.
10 years ago.
Yeah, because you really like that game, right?
Yeah, super nerd. Like, so dumb. And then I heard about this guy, Mark Maron.
Yeah. What the Fuck podcast.
Yes. And so one of my best friends 2 years ago was like, you have to do this Mark Maron podcast. And I think I was like, I don't even know what the fuck's Mark Maron. Like, what is this?
Sure.
And then she was like, well, Obama did it. And I was like, well, then it must be legit.
Yes,
that's a good sell.
Still haven't done it. And then, but then this one I asked I think I pretty much invited myself over here.
Well,
to be fair.
no, let's be clear
No,
that
no.
also.
Yes, I did, Monica. I invited
We have been
myself.
dying to get you on here.
But in addition to being the first person
Yeah.
to go number one in front of all of us, I think you might be the first super fan guest we've had.
For sure.
Yeah, because
Minus your mom who binge watched it.
That's
on her
true.
road trip.
That's true.
But you know that, so you're an even bigger fan than
Guys,
her.
I'm an open fan. Like, I'm not even in denial. Like, how often I've bitched to K-Bell. I ran into her a month ago and I was like, listen, I have some issues with this podcast.
Yeah, well, I did 5 episodes of The Ranch this year. And my favorite part of Friday nights when we tape in front of the live audience is you would come with the kids and you'd hang out. And then you'd come up to me and be like, I need 10 minutes. Like, I'm going to need 10 minutes to break down the episode. And it just, I don't know why it tickles me so much that you like it.
Because you're so great. There's something about you that's, it resembles early Stern.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll take that all
You know
day
what it
long.
is? It's like the ability to be vulnerable. I just
No.
think you're just so honest with who you are. It's a really interesting trait that you've developed in life.
Well, I also wanted you on because I had heard you on Stern. And long before I had a
I did.
podcast, do you remember I emailed you or
Yes.
I texted you to say, I'll never forget, I was in Thousand Oaks on a writing vacation. And I was down in the gym. And I was like, I always listen to Stern when I'm working out. And your episode was on and it was fantastic. It's in my top 10 favorite interviews.
So another thing is when I'm a fan of something, I don't want to do it.
Oh,
and
that's
so I was
interesting.
like a little tentative about doing this because I didn't do Stern for years because I was like, I don't want to do Stern.
What was your reservation? Because I had very specific ones.
About doing Stern? Oh, talking about my personal, my
Yeah.
vagina, my
Yes,
hair, my
yes.
things up my butt. Like whatever
Yeah,
Stern
yeah.
brings up, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
can't talk about this. Like,
Yeah.
that's what my reservation was.
That mine too, is I had dated a couple people that were famous, and I'm like,
Exactly.
that's all he's going to want to talk about.
Exactly.
And my strategy was like, he's basically a hungry lion, and I've got to feed him some meat. And so I didn't want to offer up my love life,
Yeah.
because it's rude.
You were
to
like,
the
"Look over
partners."
here.
So I was like, "Hey, I was a raging addict who got kicked off of talk shows," and he was like, "Ooh, that's delicious." And so I was able to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but
I think I just got to a place in my life where I was like, okay, I'll open up. Like I have nothing to hide. I also became a little bit more confident in who I was. I also
Yeah.
owned my mistakes. I think I had to come to a place where it's okay to be flawed. It's like,
Yeah. I think we have a lot of things in common in that we've been in public relationships and also we've had children in the public. And there are things that I look back on now that I was so bent out of shape about that I'm a little embarrassed I was so bent out of shape. Like, for instance, we were engaged for a long time and I had just this like DEFCON 1 level of panic that somehow the press was going to find out we were engaged.
Yeah.
And that every single question on every red carpet Kristen ever did was going to have to be talking about that, blah, blah, blah. And I was really wound up about all that, keeping it secret and then telling my family members, like, you can't tell anyone. And now I'm like, who on earth cares? Why did I care so much?
exactly the same.
You have that same thing.
We were, oh my God, who, Ashton and I?
Yes.
We were crazy neurotic about keeping it secret.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to probably a massive fault where we alienated so many friends, I'm sure.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And is it, I mean, if I'm on the outside, I'm like, oh, spoiled brat, this is what you wanted, blah, blah, blah. And I totally get that critique of it.
Totally.
But for me, it's like, it's the lack of control and power. Like, I'd be happy to give people a lot of what they want. But I just don't like when someone else is making that decision for me. Like, I'd love to post a fun video of Kristen and I on Instagram and share that with people. But I don't want some stranger deciding what moment I want to share.
Yeah, moments get stolen from you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's the lack of control for me, or at least like the powerlessness over like, oh gosh, I don't have any say in this.
You know, it becomes really overwhelming. I wish I could break it down more so. I think here's the biggest difference for me, at least. I started when I was 9.
Yes.
So my career didn't happen overnight. It's not like, you know, I came when I was 20 out of college and I have this aspiration to be famous or anything. Like, I genuinely just loved play pretend.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
There was no concept of social media. There was no concept of paparazzi. Like at 9 years
Yeah.
old, it's just not something you're just like, oh my God, I get to not go to school.
Right.
And I get to like go run around and, you know, sell Payless shoes. This job's awesome. Like it just didn't.
And you're celebrated. Like you have an activity, you get into
Yeah.
a scene and you have to pull it off and you execute as a little kid to have some kind of domain that you're
That's yours.
competent in is so rewarding,
Yeah,
right?
100%. I went through school. I went to public school. I was like, I got my shit done. Like I was happy. Everything was great. And then everything was fine until, you know, I would say the rise of Perez Hilton. That's what I would equate this industry crumbling on. Is
Interesting.
Perez Hilton.
Okay.
Because to me, he was the first person that created ugly news that like literally just spread filth.
Content that
Just
was
filth. It was like, and I wasn't even
mean.
It was just mean. It was
Right,
mean,
right.
and so it allowed people to be mean. It was
Yeah.
the first form that I noticed. Like this whole concept of trolling didn't exist.
Right.
It really didn't. Internet wasn't based on like talking shit.
Yeah.
What happened was you started, because so many things happen out of popularity, and this industry is such a popular aspect to grasp onto because it's so loud.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you had very accessible, what used to be just like Us Weeklies or OK Magazines that was once a week.
Yeah.
All of a sudden became once a minute.
Additionally, I'll add that the Us Weeklies and the Stars and all these different publications, they are also owned by other publications that require cooperation among actors and
To a
musicians and
certain
whatnot.
maybe. Like
As far as like they still do interviews, they want to put someone on the cover,
Sure.
right? So there was some line that they had to a little bit navigate. Whereas Paris Hilton's never getting a sit-down interview with Jennifer Aniston anyways, so
No.
there's really nothing at risk for that person to...
there's
you
no,
know-
there's nothing. You're behind a computer.
Yes.
There was no person behind the concept.
Yes.
There's no money behind it. There was no board.
And never had to factor in like, oh, I'll probably not have any access to any of these people
Yeah.
ever again, whereas Us Weekly couldn't really afford to do that.
Yeah, and then that I think was like the spiral effect of like then nowadays you read magazines and none of it's not even just like fake. It's just not plausible news.
Right.
So anyway, so blah blah blah. My point is, I think that's where I started
But
becoming.
you did
a
some
shut-in.
fun stuff, right? I think either you or Ashton told me that you guys have like old people masks.
Oh, we had them. Yeah,
and
for
did
sure.
you have an old shitty car?
Oh my god, so many of those things
One
happened.
of the funniest
Oh my god,
strategies I've ever heard.
When we started dating, God, I wouldn't even call it dating. Did Ashton ever tell you like what happened in the truth of our relationship?
No, he didn't give barely any
because he's
information.
respectful and is a
That's-
gentleman.
No, that's not it. That's not it. I wasn't
not why.
I wasn't asking him a bunch about you.
Okay.
Knowing that he's been sensitive as I was to
Yeah.
it. And also, I had heard the story on Stern, or what I believe is the story, which
Yeah.
is like you kind of ran into each other. You were looking at him from behind, like you were
Yes.
starting to feel mojo
So you
downstairs.
know the whole story. I forgot I
Well-
said it on Stern, but
let me just give the Reader's
Yeah.
Digest is and I have a funny story that I hope to bring up at some point about this. But you met when you were 14 years old. You started doing the 70s show.
Yep. He was 20.
He was 20 because I had to do the math because I was so scared to tell this story that I would come across as the ultimate pervert. But
I can't wait to hear this.
I started working with him in 2002. And I came to the 70s show.
Speaking of the devil.
That motherfucker trying to butt in a 190-minute session with you. 2002, I came to the show.
Okay.
You were 19 in 2002.
totally.
Right.
Graduated.
I was 27.
Yeah.
I was like, holy smokes, this girl is an 11.
Oh.
And I said to Ashton, like, my goodness, the actress on this show is like unbelievably good looking. And he was like, I don't know. Like, what was so obvious was
So
that
not attractive to
those
me.
people locked into you at 14 years old. Like,
Yeah.
you were a kid.
Yeah.
But I didn't meet you at 14. I met you at 19.
Yeah.
And you were as hot as it gets. And I was like, why
Thank you.
isn't anyone on the show dating her or at least actively trying? And it was just really funny that they had you in this little compartment that you were a kid.
Totally.
And then I'm sure you had your own compartment that Ashton was in.
All of them were in the same compartment. Like there was no sexual anything
Yeah.
with any one of us.
Even though everyone on the show is very attractive.
Yeah, but,
What a good-looking group.
Maybe, but not, like, but not brothers.
No, you
brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very much so. People say, but we really did look like Ashton used to do my homework for me. Like there was
Right.
no.
Yeah. So suffice to say, there has to be like a huge smashing of a paradigm for you guys to ever end up in the sack together. So
Yeah.
you can take it from there. So you were at a party, right?
Yeah, so we didn't see each other for years. We talked on, AOL Instant Messenger.
Sure.
Love it.
We kept in touch with that, and we would text each other once in a while and be like, "How's everything? I hope everything's good." Like checked in with one another
Yeah.
because we genuinely cared about each other
Right.
as humans.
Yeah. You spent 7 years of.
Yeah.
At that point was half of your life, pretty much.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, real quick. What was your AIM name?
Oh, Bug Bite Cutie.
Great
Bug
question.
Bite Cutie.
I was at AOL at a very early time.
Yeah,
Bite
mine was
Cutie.
mine was Cuppy Cake Chick.
Oh my God, you guys are so similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, clearly we're the same
Cupcake
age.
Chick and Bug Bite Cutie. Oh my goodness.
I wish I could tell you Ashton's, but he still has it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because this is really good. So we didn't see each other visually
Yeah.
for, I would say, probably 10 years.
10
and
years.
That's what happened.
Wow, you
Maybe
guys
8 years.
You hadn't run into each other or anything.
We weren't in the same city. We lived in different parts of the world, whatever reasons. So we just didn't see each other.
But my favorite part is you started feeling rhythm from the back of somebody, right?
I had a little bit of tequila, Dax. Okay, here's what happened.
Okay.
It was the Golden Globes,
Uh-huh.
and I was standing backstage, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll have a drink. Like I was whatever, just like bumming around.
Yeah.
And I was sipping on a drink, and this very tall, very good-looking stature of a man walked by,
Sure,
and I
a
was like,
silhouette.
huh, what a good-looking like from the back. Like he's very handsome.
Oh my God. I could go on for days.
And he's
about
just
it.
like built very well.
He's annoyingly handsome.
I know.
Like-
At all angles.
Trust me, I'm
looked
aware.
at his-
Yes, yes.
He's incredibly good looking.
He's so fucking good looking.
I know.
Two things. Once I went on a family vacation with him. We spent a week together in Idaho. There were a couple thousand photographs taken. I was given a DVD of these photographs. I'm going through them. I maybe look good in 7 of the 1,000. And Kutcher looks, ready for a runway in all 1,000.
I
But
know.
even worse was on the ranch this year. He's like, hey, can we just take like a selfie to throw up on Instagram to promote that you're on the show? I'm like, yeah, of course. This fucking asshole holds the phone down by his like knees in the worst lighting conceivable, shoots up our noses. And he's like, okay, good. Is this good? And he shows it to me. He looks like fucking Robert Redford coming down a mountain.
It's a superpower.
And I look like
Yeah.
Shrek. I looked like Shrek. I
You
think.
didn't look like
a
Shrek.
white Shrek. And I thought, oh my God, the luxury this guy has that he can
He's just good looking.
He can just shoot any angle of his face.
Yeah, it's true.
Incredible. Okay, so
I know.
anyways, and of course,
Silhouette.
Not surprisingly, he has a very sexy silhouette.
But then he turns around and I was like, oh, Kutch.
You
Like it was
gross.
so like, what the, like I caught myself being like, why am I checking out? And then to that point, I kept calling him Kutch. And then once we started hooking up, he was like, it's the only thing he ever asked me in our, however long we've been together now, 6 years. I don't know how long we've been together. The only things he's ever asked me is like, baby, you have to stop calling me Kutch.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I call, like,
Because
that was the kid name.
it was just something that, like, as a homie, I was like,
Yeah.
what up, Kutch?
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
was like, you can't, that's not, that's weird. And I was like, oh, what do I call you? Like, it was
Yeah.
the weirdest.
What do you call him?
Well, now he's calling babe, probably,
Yeah,
or
sure.
asshole, whatever comes out first.
yeah.
No, but I don't know. When we go to Iowa, I call him Chris.
Oh, you do? Because that's what everyone there calls him, Chris, right? Because his
Everybody back
middle
home.
name is
That's his-
Ashton, right?
Correct. Yeah. So everybody, his parents, everybody calls him Chris. So it is a weird, like.
Kristen has the same
that's-
thing. Kristen's Annie.
Exactly. So you
Yeah.
pop in and out of these two versions, and then you come back and.
And do you find it endearing when you're calling him Chris? Because I
Yeah,
kind
I
of think
giggle
it's
to myself.
cute when I call
Totally.
her Annie.
And then I try to keep doing it, and then I find he doesn't respond. Like, I don't know if at home if you go Annie if she responds, but if I go Chris, hey Chris,
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
In Iowa, it's the only thing he responds to.
Right, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you call him Ashton in front of his family,
It's weird.
almost like you know the fake version of him, right?
Exactly.
So, how do you go though from the silhouette is got you thunderstruck,
yucky.
and then you're like throw up in my mouth, and then somehow,
And then we decide to.
yeah, and then has he ever walked you through what his whole thing was?
Yeah.
Okay, what did he what happened to him?
So what happened was, he was like, I guess from his, I wish he was here, but it was like, oh.
Uh-huh.
So he had the same version of like, oh, that's not the same little girl that I used to know.
Right.
So then he decided to set me up on a blind date
With someone else.
with someone else.
So interesting. What a
Interesting
baller
move.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting
And
move.
then that guy didn't show up.
Oh, he planned that too.
You don't have to say
And that
that.
was the night that he and I hooked up.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
To console you from being stood
Yeah.
I
up.
didn't even know I was being stood up. Like, I
Very
didn't know this wasn't
strategic.
happening.
Oh, you didn't know that was happening.
No, it all is the most beautiful story that'll come 360 that one day will be told. I can't tell it, but if that person wants to tell it,
Okay.
it's awesome.
Okay, great.
So yeah, he was trying to set me up on a blind date I wasn't aware of at his house for a housewarming.
Mm-hmm.
The person got delayed at a wedding, didn't show up. I didn't even know this was happening.
Uh-huh.
That was the night that he and I hung out,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. And then,
Did you get a little tipsy?
no, it's totally sober.
Oh wow!
Oh.
A fully clear.
It was clear, and it was the
Present-minded.
weirdest.
The very first kiss. When you're
Yeah, it was-
about
it
to
was
kiss,
unbelievable.
are you like, boy, this is so weird. I'm about to kiss this person I've known for 20 years.
Yeah. And I've
but-
kissed him before. Remember, I kissed him for 7 years.
Oh yeah.
So it was like a really weird, none of this.
Now it was a real kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did it immediately feel different?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Fireworks.
Oh my God, Dax. This, if
He has beautiful lips.
He's, yeah, which I've kissed for 7 years, but never
Yeah.
appreciated. I don't
Right.
know.
Well,
I'll tell you this. While I was single, never spent the night at any guy's house.
Yes.
This was the only time that I ever spent the night at somebody's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Stay tuned for Armchair Expert, if you dare. Now, I'm glad you're bringing this up because one of the things I have fear about for you, because I like you and love you, is I think you were with Macaulay for a long time, maybe 9 years?
7, 8 years, yeah.
Okay, and from a young age, and then by my math, and what I'm learning on Wikipedia, we've only got about a year off between
2.
Ashton. 2?
I was single for 2 years.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
My question is, did you get enough horseplay in?
Yes.
Okay, thank goodness.
It was
Did you
2
have an
years.
Italian lover? Did you have a
I
French
did,
lover?
Dax, I
Did
did.
you have an Arabian night?
We did really good.
Oh,
You would have been really
good.
proud. For me, okay,
Good,
so like
good,
not
yeah.
like probably to your version or like my husband's version
Yeah.
of like
Well,
singleness.
ours is
Yeah, theirs is
depravitous.
disgusting.
Yeah, yours is gross, both of you. Mine was-
We've made love together, as I'm sure.
I'm
told
sure you have, by the way. None of this would shock me. But I was 2 years single.
Okay.
Yes. So I
And
had
you
2
were
years
ready
of
to
fun.
mingle.
No.
Oh, you weren't ready to mingle.
To like find a boyfriend, so to speak?
No, I mean
like,
during these 2 years
Oh,
that you were
yes.
single, you were open
Yes.
for business.
totally open for
Oh my God, I
business.
love it.
I had fun.
Okay, and what if you had to summarize again? I'm not going to ask you any numbers or anything, or favorite positions or any of that Howard Stern stuff, that gross stuff. But I am curious, percentage wise, where were you aggregating these lovers from? Like, where were you meeting these people you were hooking up with?
The
were they
industry.
co-stars and stuff?
Not necessarily, but they were all somebody that had something to lose.
Okay.
So everything,
Oh, very nice. Very
yeah.
nice.
So it was
Yeah.
all done. You know, I had a horrible breakup. I had
okay.
a horrible breakup, and I was
horrible
like,
in that it made you were very sad over it.
no, I fucked up. Like I was an
Oh,
asshole in my
okay.
20s.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be the
Okay.
first to admit it. And that's
Okay.
kind of something that took me a long time to come out and be like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I was a dick and
Yeah.
I accept it and I own it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's fucked up what I did. It's fucked up what I did and it's fucked up how I did it. And so when I got to be single, I was like, I just need to figure myself out. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely need to know why I did what I did and like regroup myself as a human.
Yeah.
And so I just did that. And subsequently, after 6 p.m., was open for business.
Okay,
But I
great.
didn't want to date.
After 6
I
p.m.
didn't want to be taken out to the movies.
Okay.
I didn't want
Boy, I
someone
wish I would
to...
have bumped into
Oh,
you
boy,
when
that
I was
would have been-
single. Yeah, that would
yeah.
have been right up my
I was
alley.
like,
yeah.
you know, yeah, I just wanted to like have time for myself, but then also to be
Yeah.
like, you know, let
Let's
me...
get physical.
Yeah.
Physical. So, are you able to forgive yourself? Does that come easily to you?
No,
It's hard, right?
super hard.
Yeah. Have you forgiven yourself?
You know, it's been so long. Like, I feel like enough time's gone by.
Mm-hmm.
I think enough mutual friends have, you know, been like, everybody kind of forgave everybody
Yeah.
for like the what went down.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere probably in the back of my mind,
People
I
don't know this, but you killed one of Macaulay's brothers.
can you
I mean, guys,
imagine?
people don't know that.
It's
but
a
I should
murder.
just
That was
say that you actually
murder.
murdered a fifth Culkin. You know what? A trick I try to do to myself because I love self-loathing and shame.
Yeah.
It's a very comfortable spot for me to
Me
hang
too.
out in, and I just try to. I give a friend of mine the exact same mistake, and I imagine that friend telling me that.
Yeah.
And how forgiving I would be, and how much I'd urge them to forgive themselves, and how just kind of loving I could be to a stranger. Or I hear things in AA all the time in shares where I'm like, oh man, I know how much that hurts, but you know, it's you can forgive yourself and you're human and blah, blah, blah. So I try to trick myself into imagining that someone's telling me this thing I've done.
Yeah,
And how much differently I'd view it.
Yeah, which oddly is what happened. I did have really great friends that did tell me that. It's whether or not I believe them, right? So it was
Yeah.
like, it just took me a second to be like...
But if you had a girlfriend that
Yeah.
came to you and she said...
I did. And I gave her the greatest of advices, right? But
Okay.
I myself couldn't...
Yeah. Because anyone who gets in a relationship at 17 or 18 or whatever you were...
Yeah.
You're not making it to 60 without some mistakes. It's just
Yeah.
not how, I don't know that there's been a human that's done that.
Yeah.
And it would be so easy to recognize in someone else, like, yeah, man, guess what? You were guilty of being a human being who was,
Yes,
know,
and at 35, I can look back and be like, I was 20. But at
Yes.
25, I'm
you
like,
felt like a piece of shit.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
That's
yes,
how-
it's been however many years now, 10 years.
Right.
So like, yeah, for sure. I think everybody's
Yeah.
in a much better place.
I assume everyone knows this about you, but for those who haven't heard Stern, you have, from my point of view, one of the more peculiar childhoods one could have. You basically just parachuted into America, right? You were 7 years old.
Okay.
You were 7 years old and you left Soviet Ukraine.
Yep.
And you started school, 30 hours after you landed?
Yeah, the next day.
Yeah.
91. I have to do the math. That's 7.5.
Do you have memories of Soviet Ukraine?
Oh, I've said this. I think so much of my memories are memories that I either created from stories that my parents told or from visual photos that I've seen.
Yes, I've had that same
So I don't
discovery.
know. I want to say, of course I do.
Yeah.
I don't think I do.
Right.
But you know what? For the first time this past year, Ashton was like, let's go back to your hometown.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, okay, but I only want to go if my parents can go. And it was like this whole thing. And so I was shooting in Budapest, and that was only like a 3-hour flight, maybe less than, to go to Chernihiv, Ukraine. And so we went to my hometown, and we landed, and he was like, so? And I was like, yeah, nothing. I got nothing. Like, it wasn't, there was no overwhelming.
What if there was a statue of you in the town? Can you imagine how fantastic that would be?
Yeah. That did not happen.
Because you're probably the most famous person to ever come out of that town.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably. Yeah, for sure. And there's not very many of us that left.
Yeah.
But I did remember how to go to the grocery store from my apartment. So,
you did?
so to the point of I have memories. We went to my house, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, if I go down the street and make a left, I'm at my school. But if I go up the street, I'm at the grocery store. My parents were like, yes!
That must have made them feel good.
Yeah, so I clearly have some.
Because now that you have kids, do you not live with this panic I always do where it's like, I'll be having the most amazing experience with Lincoln. Like we're on a daddy-daughter trip somewhere. And then right at the peak of my happiness, I go, in 4 weeks, she's not going to remember this.
Yes, it happens all the time.
Isn't it heartbreaking?
I had the best, 3 weekends ago, Wyatt and I went on this adventure, and then yesterday I was like, buddy, do you remember? And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh, no. But it was me and you, and it was so great.
I know. I try to tell myself it only matters that I remember it, you know? But it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, they have no concept
I keep
of it.
waiting to think, like, when is your shit going to start recording?
They don't give a fuck.
No.
Every time I'm like, look at this magical experience, and they're like, Paw Patrol. They don't really care.
That picture thing is really interesting because when my dad died, I ended up getting a few photo albums that were in his basement. Mm-hmm. And I was looking through it, and I was like, oh my God, all these memories I think I have are memories of these photos.
Yeah.
It was a very sad realization as well.
But it doesn't have to be sad. A memory is a memory. And as long as it's a good one, who cares how it was, manifested.
You're right.
I think that, that's so many times people are like, I remember when I was 4 years old, and I'm like, I cry bullshit.
Yeah.
Fact check it. But I cry bullshit. I don't think, maybe some psychologists will say otherwise.
Yeah.
I can't imagine my 3.5-year-old one day recalling the fact that she and I went to Target.
Right.
I don't think that that's going to happen.
Well, you have in general, you have a good bullshit meter, which we're going to get into. Yes. I just say it's one of your defining characteristics, wouldn't you say? You have a pretty good bullshit meter?
It's definitely defining. I don't know if it's positive. But
you don't know if it's productive to your life.
Not at all.
No, but I've noticed this about you for some time, that you have a pretty good,
What do you mean?
Well, you're being told something, everyone's going along with it, and then you're like, well, hold on a second. I
you
feel
just
like
call shit out.
Yes,
That's good.
You have a motive. I can smell your motive. I can smell this.
That also happened later in life.
Okay.
When I became transparent, in my late 20s, I was like, well, then I want every motherfucker to be transparent.
Right,
and then I was like, why are you peacocking?
Yes.
I have this problem now with let's just all be honest. Because the problem that happens is when we're not honest.
It
and then
really
everything
is.
spirals. So what is this bullshit that you're feeding me?
Yes.
So but sometimes why am I thought policing people? Who am I to be like...
Agreed. It's this crazy hamster wheel we're all on upstairs. But you land in, I guess you would be in first or second grade when you were 7. Did you start? Second. And you've said you don't really have any memories of that first year.
No, I don't. And my mom will attest to it. I at one point realized, I was like, I have a chunk of my life that I literally can't recall a day of. And she was like, oh, and she's laughing. She goes, well, I can tell you why. And I was like, oh, do tell. She goes, you cried every day.
Really?
Every day you cried when you came home from school. And I was like, oh, clearly.
I mean, you didn't speak, obviously, a lick of English, right?
No.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
And almost all my baggage, I believe, comes from kindergarten through 5th grade. I mean, that's all the chips on my shoulder and things I'm trying to overcome and prove to people all started there.
Yeah.
What things do you think, what did you pick up in those 5 years?
Resilience.
Resilience.
I think so. My essay going into college, you have to write an essay for school. The first second line was, imagine being blind and deaf at the age of 7.
Right.
And that's the best way that I can explain is
Yes.
like all of a sudden you
Yeah.
can hear and you can see, and then somebody takes all your senses away from you.
Uh-huh.
And you're in this world where the food doesn't taste the same, the sounds aren't familiar,
Yeah.
the visuals are completely jarring.
Things work.
There's toilets,
Yeah, exactly.
there's electricity.
The elevators work. But what was the thing? I guess so. For me, it was being funny. That was like the way I kind of like. I started to connect with people through kind of being funny. Like, did you when you do you at least remember when you started to have a couple friends in elementary school?
So the first girl I was friends with, she had no choice but to be friends with me. So
Okay.
like the way the school worked was she spoke Russian and English.
Oh,
So they were like, you have to be friends with that girl.
oh, geez.
And her name was Maria, and she ultimately became one of my best friends. And I still, once in a blue moon, talk to her and text with her. She's got, I think, 3 or 4 beautiful kids. She's like, has a great life. In second grade, the principal or however this worked out, they were like, you have to be her translator, so you have to help her. And she,
Yeah,
7,
so-
8, they're like, do I?
Yeah.
And so the poor kid had no choice but to be
That's
my
a
friend.
heavy load.
What a
to
And then
bear.
became friends. We became super close.
And so cool for her now.
Yeah, she
gets
saved
to be
your life.
your hero.
Her name was Maria Osache, and I don't know what her that was her maiden name. I know she changed her name later in life, but her family Osache, and her family became really generous to me,
Oh, really?
really kind,
Were
really
they
generous.
they had emigrated from Russia as well? or
Yeah,
they
probably
had?
like a couple years earlier at that point because she spoke English a little bit.
And how was it for your brother? You have an older brother.
Yeah, it was hard for him. Well, there's so many aspects about my brother that I didn't appreciate till I was much older. So we came here. If I was 7, that would make him like 13, 14.
Oh, what an age
It was
to
rough.
be
That's hard, yeah.
completely excluded.
Yeah, yeah. And we shared a room
Oh, great.
till he went to college.
Oh boy.
And he was always so nice to me.
He was.
He was so nice and so kind. And my parents were like, wherever you go, take your sister. And he was like, okay.
Well, that's
And he
wonderful.
he never argued it. He never was like that older brother that like picked on his young. Never. He was incredible
You're kind of tomboy
because of that.
because of him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my little sister's kind of tomboy.
I think you are what you're, surrounded by. And my brother was like, well, if she's hanging out with me, then we're going to go and play basketball and soccer. And
Yeah, you're not
run
going to
around
be
and-
Build-A-Bear Workshop.
No.
No,
No,
you're-
I didn't play with dolls.
Right. What did it ever get good? Did you ever feel
Totally.
like, oh my God, I've acclimated and I have friends now?
Yeah. And by 3rd, 4th grade, I spoke English.
Okay.
So when you're little, you pick it up really quickly.
Right. And once you spoke English, you started interacting just fine with all the
Totally
other little
fine.
kids.
Totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you started acting immediately after you learned English then, kind of.
So it was kind of what my
timeline-wise.
parents, I was 9 when I did.
Well, really quick question. Why did your family even come to LA? Of all the places to pick leaving
You
the
can't
Ukraine.
really pick.
Oh, you don't
so
pick?
back in the day, we came on a refugee religious visa.
Right, because y'all
we're
were
Jewish,
Jewish
yeah.
and they weren't.
As accepted.
Kind, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we came on a religious visa and or religious asylum.
Uh-huh.
And so you have to get requested based on where you have family. So your family requests your presence. so to
Oh,
speak.
okay.
So if you have family in Maine, you go to Maine. If you have family in
And you guys
Texas,
had
go to
family
Texas.
here?
And we had family in LA.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we came to LA.
And you guys, just from, again, I've only been around you and your dad like 4 or 5 times, but I have been around you guys at your house and at premieres and stuff. You guys are crazy close, like in a wonderful way
Yeah.
from the outside.
Yeah.
And do you think that was forged in this, like, you guys got dropped into another planet
Yeah.
and you stayed close and tight?
How close are you to your mom?
Some would argue unhealthy,
So I
but again, I was her team.
I
Like
think
it was
that-
us against the world.
Yes. So it's the same.
Yeah, it was like
It's the same idea. It's
born out of strife.
Yeah, and when you only have each other and like
Mm-hmm.
you see the struggle's not it wasn't like the struggle of my family was like shielded from me. It's not like I wasn't aware of how poor we were.
Right.
It was like inclusive struggle. Like we
Yeah.
are going to get through this together.
Yes.
Like we are doing this as a group. We are
Yeah.
a family and my parents protected my brother and I, don't get me wrong, but to a certain extent you're like, "Oh, wait a second. We're really poor."
Yeah.
And so when you kind of rise from that as a group, I don't think you could ever take that away from the family. And we have a very small family.
Yeah, it's just
Very,
the 4
very
of you,
small.
is it? Yeah.
And my uncle, and that's it.
I, of course, talked to your dad. I don't know why that is. He's very outgoing.
Boisterous.
Yeah, he's outgoing.
I know.
You love dads.
Oh, I do.
My dad
I do.
is like a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a character, that's for sure. My
It
dad
is-
also like loves
Was
to be
he
loud.
at the premiere?
Yes, he was right behind
Yeah.
us. I was talking to him.
Yeah.
My mom's
Yeah.
a little shy. She's like tiny, blonde, blue-eyed, little
And Ashton does really well with him.
With my dad?
Yes.
My dad likes Ashton more than he likes me.
Right. Like they really seem to have a thing.
They
when
love
I'm
each
around
other.
them. Yeah.
Stay tuned for Armchair Expert, if you dare.
So, because your family's around so often, do you guys find that, like, whether it's his family visiting or your family's spent a bunch of time there, you get in bed at the end of the night, they've all left, and then just the bitching starts. You just start listening, like, did you notice when she said this or he said this? In our house, what's really funny is our own parents trigger us way more than the other person's parents
Always.
trigger us, right? Mm-hmm. So, is that the case?
So for me, it is. For Ashton, it's not.
Oh, he's
a
not triggered
saint.
by anyone?
By anything.
Oh, geez.
This guy, it's so
The looks, the
fucking
chin.
annoying. I'm like, I literally get triggered. I am like a, what is it, like a firecracker, whatever you want to call it, like a, psh, like once I'm off, I'm like,
Just ready to.
like
You're
everything, right?
nitroglycerin, just waiting for a strike.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's very easy. Okay, like I'm literally, and it takes me.
too.
Okay, so I then have to just walk out of the room. I'm like, I don't want to start this fight. I'm walking out of the room. Everybody leaves, and Ash and I are saying that. I'm like, can you believe this? And he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like he literally
Yeah.
is like a saint.
He's rabbinical.
He is.
He approaches things like a rabbi.
He does.
He has like this really.
He's just even keel. He's great.
I mean, he's
like,
flawed. Let's not make no mistakes.
Super flawed.
The guy's got some growing he
But-
could all do, like we all can.
Yes.
But he is very rabbinical.
Totally, but the way, with like interaction with people and emotions, he's figured out. There's
Yeah.
lots of flaws we all have.
Sure.
I am very fiery.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like to say passionate. Other people would say reactive,
Okay.
whatever the term is. He's not reactive.
Right.
He's the opposite. So like
Yeah.
sometimes I just want to wake him up and be like, react.
He's a base and you're an acid, and you're meant to be together.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's a
So
good
when he
combo.
lets me like just blow up and he just sits there and he's like,
No, I was just going to say, don't you feel, because recently I've been feeling like this so much. Like, why do I have to care?
yes.
If we're in a conversation and we're having an argument, why do I care enough to say it? Why do I have to talk right now?
This is you and I are the same, and I don't have an answer for you because I don't have
so
I don't know why
frustrating.
I have to prove my point. Like
Yeah.
I don't know where this comes from, whether it's right or wrong.
Well,
I have
I-
to prove it,
Me
and he
too.
literally goes, "Why?"
I think it's from having not felt heard at
Cool.
some
Yeah.
point in your life.
Totally.
But I too have the same thing. I have a mantra in my head where it's like the conversation's going there, and I just in my head I'm going, your opinion's not needed here. It's not required.
Does
it's not
Cable
required.
have the opposite or the same as you?
No, she's got an opinion on everything
She has
too.
an opinion,
See,
but
Ashton doesn't.
Yeah.
He really doesn't. He literally will be like, I don't. And I sometimes like, why didn't you speak up? And he goes, why?
Yeah.
But it's right sized. It's like all these things don't really deserve this much passion or concern. It's like
I
they're
clearly
not
feel
that
the opposite.
important.
I find my passions to be the most important. And
Yeah.
so when someone triggers an argument in a field that I'm incredibly passionate about,
Yeah.
I have a hard time not being reactive. And I work on it so much.
Do you have a technique?
Yeah, I just try to tell myself, like, shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
literally have to catch myself and be like, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. It doesn't matter. And I've gotten so much better. I really do think, because politically is where my
Yeah,
dad and
yeah.
I disagree.
Sure.
And I've gotten to a place where I'm like, I just am going to ignore this because I get triggered so fast.
Yeah. I have to physically look at another thing and actually start going through the details of that object I'm
Yeah,
looking at. Like,
I just
I'm
walk
looking
away.
at the fridge. I noticed the handles have some butter on them. I got to wipe off, but it has to be physical. Like I have to.
I have to physically leave the room.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I need to go. I don't care. Wash my hands. Like I literally just have to just walk away from the situation and then hopes that when I come back, it's done.
Yeah. And I also try to remind myself, like, especially that political stuff, it's like, look, I'm going to be honest with myself. What part of my life is politics really taking up? I'm going to vote every 2 years. That's going to be my full say over all of this, right?
Yeah.
I can argue every single day leading up to that vote, but my power in this democracy is I get to go cast a ballot. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sleep on that duty. Beyond that, what am I going to do? Why do I need to tell every single person I interact with where I'm at politically?
Because I'll tell you why I do. Because I
Yeah.
like to understand where they are. Chances are I'm not going to argue with you on a point.
Right.
Chances are more likely than not I'm going to go off and say the three of us would vote.
Yeah,
Four of us would
similar.
vote similarly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's say you don't. And especially in today's world, I can't understand why.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
And so I just need to understand why, which is where like the arguments start.
I like the trying to understand why.
That's all.
But I think it's a total fallacy that either of us will ever convince an opponent of our political
So
views.
I'm not even trying
that
to convince
me
them, though.
is where it's just a complete waste of time.
I wouldn't try to convince you to vote my direction. I just need you to explain to me
Right.
logically
Yeah.
how you benefit from person X.
And then you can't help but poke holes into what because they're just saying
If it doesn't make sense
it's a
to me-
trap you set for
It
yourself,
is.
basically.
Yes, so why bother? I don't know.
I agree. I just want to go back to, so you're a little kid, and then you get into acting very early. One thing that I think is wonderfully ironic is the first couple things that you do as a Russian immigrant is you do a Barbie commercial. It just couldn't get more American than that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The two of the first few things you did are just like, you might as well have been baking an apple pie for a living.
Also, lots of Hispanic commercials, guys,
Because you were getting cast often as a Latina.
because I was a little tan.
Yeah.
Did you once lose? Is this real? I pray it is. That I read on
gonna be good.
Wikipedia that
Oh.
you lost a role as a Jewish
Yes, Russian Jew.
Russian immigrant.
Correct.
You didn't get cast in it. Then moves to America at 7 years old. Like it was basically the Mila
autobiography.
Kunis
Guys,
life story.
this is true.
And you didn't get cast,
But
silver lining.
I got cast as the racist Hispanic.
Oh my god.
So it was a movie at the time, you know those after school specials
Sure.
back in the days?
Yeah. Mhm.
It's called Make a Wish Molly. And Molly was like the Russian girl that comes into America. I clearly didn't look Russian enough.
Okay.
So I got cast as her like nemesis in school.
Still the same project.
Same
just
project.
A different
Different role.
wow.
Yeah. And the gal that they passed, hired as Molly, the title character, was she a Russian Jew?
I don't remember. No, 'cause I think she was just
Like from
Russian.
Spokane.
So like blonde.
Okay, great.
So
Kind of
I-
that Nordic look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
this
really
is true.
funny. And did you take that hard? You're like, Jesus, if I can't get cast in the role of Mila Kunis, what am I
What
doing?
am I worth? No, I don't think I cared. I was like, woohoo.
And then you were on Baywatch.
Couple times.
Wow, repeat.
As different characters.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Did
true.
they know that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay,
They
good.
didn't care. It was Baywatch.
Either way's great. Either they were like, we don't give a fuck if you're playing.
Yeah, no, they didn't care.
Okay, but also it would have been funny is they didn't even realize they were hiring you over and over again. That too would be fun.
By the way, I don't know. I'm
don't know,
assuming
yeah.
they didn't care, but maybe they just didn't know.
I could see where that would definitely happen. No
It's
one's paying
possible.
attention.
Yeah.
Because everyone's in their own little bubble on a
Totally.
set.
Like
Yeah.
how many 9-year-olds at the time were I don't know. Maybe they didn't know.
And so what different characters did you play on Baywatch?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So in the first time, I think I was 10, maybe somewhere, and I played a girl in a classroom, and we were on a field trip, and one of the characters clearly gets swept off into the ocean and needs rescuing,
Oh, sure.
and I have to run and get help.
Oh, okay.
Acting job number 1 with Baywatch.
Okay.
Acting job number 2 was during the Pamela Anderson years, because I know this because everybody showed up to set. It was literally the first day my dad, my grandfather, like every male in my family was like, I'll take you.
Yeah, yeah.
And they did. And it was I played a blind girl
Oh.
who gets lost in the forest and needs to be rescued.
And then falls into the ocean in
And
the
then
forest.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But anyways, I played some blind girl in the forest.
Oh, okay. And who rescued you? Hasselhoff?
His son.
Oh, well.
His son, and then I think maybe this was so long ago, I really don't remember, but somehow I ended up in the water.
Of
And my dad was
course.
always like, the logic doesn't make sense. You're blind. How are you boogie boarding in the water? And I was like, Dad, shh, be quiet.
Yeah, don't poke any holes in this.
Yeah.
They'll fire me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like my dream would be to be carried out of the surf by Hasselhoff.
No, but I have a photo with David Hasselhoff.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah, and a photo with Pamela Anderson.
Oh, really? Was
Yeah.
she kind to you?
Everybody's so nice to kids. That's why I have
Yeah.
a weird perspective as to like people in this industry, because people have always been so nice to me. Since
Yeah.
I was a kid.
Yeah. And then so then at 14 years old, you get the 70s show.
Yeah.
And lore is that you say, I will be turning 18. They only wanted to
is
hire
true.
adults,
Yeah.
obviously, because it's hard to film with kids for the hours.
Yeah.
So you say, I'll be turning 18, which of course you weren't lying. You did turn 18, but it was 4 years later.
They did know that before I went to network.
Right,
Because you have
right.
to sign those contracts before
Yeah.
you go to the final process, I guess,
Yes.
point. And so there was an asterisk of like studio teacher. And they were like, studio teacher. And I was like, oh, P.S., I'm 14, yo.
Right. And you were going to a public high school, right? Fairfax?
I was going to LACES, Los Angeles Center for Enriched Studies,
Uh-huh.
on 18th Street in La Cienega. In 9th grade, I shot the pilot in 9th grade. And then the show got picked up and they were like, yeah, you got to go.
Okay.
And so then they kicked me out of school.
All right.
And then I went to Fairfax.
And that's a public high school.
Both public high schools.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, both public high schools.
And so what was it like being in high school and also being on a very hit
Horrible.
TV show?
It's a really dumb idea.
Horrible in what way?
Because there's enough...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
go
meant to
ahead.
do this at the very beginning, and I have to do it now because I felt myself about to say it. Does it drive you nuts when you're like on Stern and he keeps talking about how good looking you are?
No.
Because I feel like so many of my questions or thoughts I have about you, they involve the fact that you're very attractive. And I was like, is that A, is it sexist? B, is it uncomfortable for you? I can only look at things through my own filter, which is I'd love to be on a show where they were telling me how good looking I am for an hour. So I can't relate to not wanting that. But I also recognize maybe, does that get old? People talking about
I
that?
think the right answer is yeah, Dax. But the truth is no.
Okay.
Because I'm 35. I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
I like people thinking that I'm still
Okay,
attractive.
good,
like,
good.
there's
Yeah.
no version of life where I hope somebody goes, boy, you fucking look like shit.
This
like,
gal went through
Thank
the
you.
ringer.
Right?
Thank
Like-
you for saying so.
I very much so appreciate a good compliment. Okay, I have nothing against it.
Okay,
I-
so this is what I want to because
Yeah.
this is where it comes into play. Like you're super fucking attractive in high school. You're hot and
Yeah.
you're on TV. It's not like a super charmed existence. In my fantasy, that's like as good as it gets. You're
No, it's
hot
pretty
and-
shitty.
It is. Tell me why.
because I didn't think I was hot. I still
Bitches be
don't.
jealous.
No, it's just
Oh.
that it's a weird. So, I think like there's a perspective that used to happen of like if you're on television, you looked a certain way, or in film, you looked a certain way, or in photographs, you looked a certain way, and it's not what I looked like when I went to school. Like
Okay.
I showered, put on sweatpants, and went to school.
Yeah.
And so then there was like a whole thing of like, well, that's not what you fucking look like.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I was like, no, it's not. Like I'm sorry.
I didn't go through final touches on
Yeah.
the bus.
And so people kind of like, oh, like super bummed
So you
out.
felt
by
people
it.
were let down.
Visually speaking, yeah. I also really was so like a late bloomer.
Okay.
So I really did not like own my sexuality is such a weird thing to say because I was so young, but like own my body until much later in life.
Were you boy crazy?
No,
Not at all.
not in the slightest.
Not interested
Super
whatsoever.
late bloomer.
Oh, really? So
Super late.
when do you start liking boys?
Probably like 16.
TBD.
I don't know.
16.
Probably. I mean, not that I didn't like boys before, but it
Did you
just
go on
wasn't.
any dates with
No.
high school boys?
Never.
Did anyone ask you out?
No.
They didn't?
No, my studio teacher, Linda Resnick, forced her son, Michael Resnick, to take me to prom.
Oh.
To the Brentwood prom, guys.
And how was
Oh,
that?
so
Oh,
Fancy
so
prom.
awkward. He hated it. I think he
hated
was
it?
miserable.
Oh, my goodness.
Poor Mikey.
I'm
Yeah.
having a hard time
Yeah, it's
imagining being 16 and taking you to prom and being
I
bummed
think it's
about it.
embarrassing. I don't know. I think being in LA, it's embarrassing. I think not being in LA probably would have been different if I was like going to a prom in Iowa. People would have been like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
In LA,
Yeah.
it comes across as like that whole theory of like, "Oh, you're so conceited." You know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole idea of like, "Oh, you think you're so cool."
Right. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, which is like that person thinks they're better than me. The real emotion is I feel less than around this
But
person.
at
But you don't
16, it
realize
doesn't
that.
have-
Even,
it
I don't think at
doesn't-
45 people are
No,
realizing
and so I was
that.
always like, "Oh my god, I hope that people don't think this about me." Like,
And were you
hate
going
it.
out of your way to let them know, like, hey, I'm very low maintenance and
so
normal?
much so that I literally would take a shower, not put on makeup, put on sweatpants, and be
Poop-
like,
poop your
"Aren't I
pants."
accessible?"
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm so normal.
But you had a group of girlfriends, or at least according
Still.
to Kristen, that you're still is your crew, right?
Yeah.
And that was forged in high school,
Elementary school.
elementary
So
school.
I'm very lucky. Remember, I'm not a transplant. So like
Right.
so many people in LA.
Well, you are the ultimate transplant, but after 7 years old,
But
you're
it's
not.
7.
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I like to think I grew up in
Yeah.
LA. Like I
Yes.
didn't come at 19 with an aspiration to be an actress, leaving
Yeah.
all my whole family behind, and curating a whole new group of friends and a
Yes.
whole new life and
Yeah.
and a whole new self. So all my friends are from when I was 10.
But you know
and then
what's-
some along the way.
But what's interesting about that is I actually have more respect for people like you because I left everything that made me happy and comfortable.
Yeah.
So if I was out here and I wasn't making it, it was such a disaster. Like,
Yeah.
why go through all that and then also not make it? Whereas I do feel like if this was my hometown, I would have been a lot more comfortable and a lot less motivated. So I weirdly have
true.
more respect for people like you who are from here who did it.
I think it's just a different outcome. I do think that's the reason that I didn't get into drugs and I didn't get into alcohol. I didn't have that because I didn't have the pressure.
Did you guys though have a different relationship with drinking? Did your parents like
No.
in my Russian stereotype? They drank vodka and stuff, and it was on the table. And,
Totally, which is why it wasn't a big deal.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not
so
saying
you would
that
have been
that's like the right-
permitted to if you wanted to.
I think I at one point asked my dad to try a beer, and he was like, sure. And then I tried it, and I liked it, and he was like, well, that's going to be a problem. So that was the end of that, right? I think he wanted me to try and be like, yucky. And I tried it, and I was like, And he was
Yummy.
like, but I never, it just wasn't, I think because I had so many other passions in life, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It just wasn't something that I got wrapped up in. Not to say that I didn't smoke weed back, you know what I mean, in my 20s, but it just wasn't.
Yeah. Well, we knew you smoked weed because you said you loved World of Warcraft or whatever the hell.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, you got it. That's a nice companion piece.
Yeah, a little
right?
bit.
If you're spending a
kinda
lot
nice.
of time playing a video game, it certainly helps to be stoned,
totally.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Before kids, let me clarify.
Okay. So, was there anything awkward about going through essentially puberty in the
Yes.
public eye
Horrible.
on that show?
Yes.
In what ways? How did that? You just felt very self-conscious, or?
Visually, but again, this was before the paparazzi craze, so I think I consider myself very lucky. And before social media, so it wasn't like I needed to post photos of myself
Right.
or show my like figure, whatever it is that now people feel like they have to do.
Yes.
I never had to do.
Right.
So the only awkwardness was like, getting pimples all the time and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to shoot and I have these
Oh
giant
my
zits
God,
everywhere.
yes. I had some very severe pimples as a child, and I would have been mortified. I
Mine
wouldn't
are
even
all
leave
over
my
70
house.
show.
I can't imagine I would have to leave my house and go straight to
yeah.
a TV studio.
Yeah, my all puberty is recorded on 70 Show.
And are there any episodes in particular that you're like, oh, they did
I've never
not
watched
cover
them.
that up?
I've never seen a single episode.
Okay, that's very healthy. Why is that, do you
I've
think?
never.
No interest, or?
Because it never was like, I think I was so young when I started. I say that I think it makes a huge difference with how your outlook on this industry transpires. I didn't look at it as like an art form.
Right.
I looked at it as a hobby.
Yeah.
And so because it's a hobby, I don't need to dissect it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or you probably weren't even looking at it as commerce either.
It wasn't. It was just like fun.
Were you aware of the fact that you were like making a bunch of money as a
No.
kid? You weren't.
No.
It didn't cross your mind like, oh wow, in a few years I'm gonna like
No.
leave how I could buy a Lamborghini. Never
No,
thought-
my parents literally were the most incredible humans. So we were super poor.
Mm-hmm.
I was making money. They could have taken a certain percentage. They're legally
Yeah, I think
allowed to
you're
take
allowed-
a certain.
Yeah.
They didn't. So they just we were still poor, and I was making money, and I didn't know. I had no concept of finances at the
Yeah.
time, and so we were still just living life. And then my parents started making money, and then we started living a better life and a better. But none of my money got touched until I was 18, and then my dad went, okay, so 16. I was like, I need a car, and I was like, I really want this Ford Explorer, and he was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
And then I
which
had
is
to,
so
I take the bus to school.
you could have
to
bought
work.
a Corvette.
Yeah, but he made me take the bus.
He did.
No.
And is this correct that your dad to this day won't let you buy him anything?
Correct. There's now gotten a place where because he loves Ashton so much more than he loves me.
Yes.
He sometimes allows him to pay for dinner.
Okay. Oh, so he lets him pay for dinner.
Yeah.
But that's like a man respect thing, right? That's like a male.
Maybe.
Oh, he's now the patriarch of this family, and I gotta pass the torch to him.
Or he kind of knows that it's not just my money.
Right.
So maybe
right.
he's got like a little bit of like a better understanding of like
I think it's a weird respect thing. He's like, you're now I'm gonna. That's how you say without saying it. I'm gonna let you be the man of this family now. I think it's kind of cute.
maybe, yeah.
But when I think about your father, not allowing you to buy, because you could buy him a very nice house. You could do
I
that.
tried.
You tried, right?
Yeah.
I have two thoughts. One is, what an amazing stand-up guy. That
Both
he just,
my mom and dad. I want to point out too, not just my dad. My
Yeah.
mom and dad.
I stupidly get hung up on dads
Yeah, 'cause
because
you're
I'm a
obsessed
dad.
with dads.
Yeah, I'm obsessed
But it's
with
both
dads.
of them
Yeah.
have, like,
so
a-
your mother, I
Yeah.
can put her in this category too.
Okay.
Both of them, how amazingly cool.
yeah.
That's one thought I have. Like,
Yeah.
what principled people of integrity. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Another part of me is like, humans' minds are so fucked up. Like, enjoy this shit. You know, it's like whatever weird thing, whether it's pride or it's a sense of
Pride,
you don't
yeah.
do this because your kids, like, there's enough for everyone to be living very comfortably. And what a silly thing we get hung up on in our head that we would deny ourselves.
But to them, they're comfortable.
Yeah, which again is cool. That's
Coming
why
from
it's like
communist
two
Russia takes little.
two thoughts. It's like one is I have a ton of admiration for it, and then the other part of me is like, no, go to Hawaii for 2 weeks and fucking have the time of your life in a fashion that.
So we've learned that we have to give them non-refundable presents. And so then they have no choice but to accept
You've
them.
hacked them.
Yeah.
So what would be an
Smart.
example of a non-refundable
A
present?
trip to Africa.
Oh,
Non-refundable. You gotta get it.
non-refundable. You gotta go.
We gotta go. And then,
I love
and
it.
then they're like, oh my God.
And they went.
They've accepted it. They haven't gone yet. But
okay.
like some stuff that you can't not accept. It can't be like a
It'll
thought.
just be wasted, which would be even more painful.
You can't
for
be like,
them.
what if I get you? No, don't question it.
Right.
Just get them whatever cannot be returned.
Yeah. Very smart hack.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my thinking cap on of more things we can get for them that they can't return.
Yeah. I mean, they're incredibly generous people.
So, pretty soon after you get the 70s show, you also get cast in Family Guy.
Yes.
Yes.
A year later.
And that thing
Nobody watched the show.
at the beginning, well, it was even canceled, right? And it came
Twice.
back. Yeah.
It was canceled twice. Once canceled, brought back. Second time canceled for like 2 years. It was canceled. Fact check this one.
Yeah, I will.
But it was definitely canceled for a
Yeah, and
couple
it moved
years.
to a different network or
No.
something. Oh, it didn't.
Stayed always at Fox. It was fought by. I mean, it was like nobody watched it. I don't know what happened. We did it for like 2-3 years, and it was canceled for 2-3 years, and it was brought back, and it was canceled.
Yeah.
And then I found out it was brought back on the news.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm
this,
coming back.
this little show that probably almost, well, I don't know because I'm not a huge Family Guy person, but I can't imagine most people associate you with Family Guy. That's like, if they were listing things they know about you, that's going to be long down on the list. But that's the secret lottery ticket of your career, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's kind of the
That's
secret
awesome.
thing we're all dreaming about.
It's true.
Like if you don't end up in fucking Frozen,
But you can't predict it.
you can't.
You couldn't predict Frozen. You
No,
couldn't predict this. It
no.
just is one of those things where if you are chasing it, it will never happen.
Yes.
But if you just stumble upon it,
Yeah.
then you're like in the.
So is it one of the things you have the most gratitude for? Is
It is
professionally
the-
It's
yes.
the number one, right?
I've recorded that show everywhere around the world. Like I don't even
Mm-hmm.
have to be in Los Angeles, let alone in America, to record it. And it's like the greatest gig. And my characters just get shit on the whole time. So
Yeah.
there's more times than not.
You've described your character as the scapegoat of the
She
show.
is. She is.
right?
She just literally gets physically shot on by her. Like she's the poor thing barely appears. So I go in once in a blue moon, record for like an hour, maybe maximum,
Yeah.
and do like bank 4 or 5 episodes in 1 hour.
Yeah, that sounds like the dream.
Yeah,
It is the dream.
dreamy.
Sign me up. Did you become close with Seth through being on that show?
Yeah.
He was always around, whether you were with the other
He
actors or
used
not.
to be around all the time.
Okay.
Seth is now.
Now he's not even-
He's left us.
Oh, good for him.
Seth is now becoming his own movie star.
Okay, great. That's what
But he used to be. He used to be in the booth with us doing all the voices.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember if like other people would be there. He would always read with you when.
Well, because he was
recorded.
directing them too, I assume, or at least
He was. We
as
had
the
no money. I think he
creator.
was writing, directing, doing everything at the time. Now
Sure.
he's gone.
Okay, so you're on. You're on?
Wait, sorry, Seth MacFarlane.
Seth
Oh,
MacFarlane.
nice.
Yes.
So during your tenure on the '70s show, you did several movies,
Correct.
and some of those movies
We're
underperformed.
horrible.
Some of them didn't turn
When you
out
say
well.
underperformed, I like to think when you're 15, there's no such thing as underperform.
Yes, but what I'm curious about is during that phase where you had a few misfires, were you getting discouraged?
No.
You were never discouraged
Because it wasn't something that I looked at as a misfire. I really
Okay.
like
Good.
when you're young. And again, I wasn't paying bills. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. I was fine. I looked at it as a fun hobby job.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I put pressure on myself to have to be the number one at. I
Right.
just was like, oh, I'm getting hired. The movies didn't depend on me.
Yeah.
They weren't financed because of me.
Right.
They didn't get released due to my name, and I didn't have to do any press for them. It was a
Right.
very different world of film.
Yes. But, and this has evolved even since this time I'm talking about, 2002-ish. Then there was a kind of hard-worn trajectory of you're a TV star,
Yeah.
you're going to get a couple shots at movies. I just remember the Friends people, like they all went through it, and you're like, ooh, who's going to have a movie career?
Yeah.
And Jennifer Aniston did, and some of them didn't, right?
Yeah.
So, but none of that was on your mind during that period.
So I'll tell you, during 70s, no.
Okay.
At all. I was like, well, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to figure out what it is I'm going to do in my life.
Right.
And then 70s was coming to an end. I think I was like 20, I don't know, let's say 21, 22 when the show ended.
Okay.
But at 19, I was going to go to college. I was going to like have a
You went to UCLA for a minute?
For a second, I went to UCLA, then transferred to Loyola Marymount, and then deferred for like 7 years.
Okay.
I went to like a Zionist theory class at UCLA, and I was like, UCLA is not for me, guys. It was like great, but I was like, I can't, this is just too much while working full time. Doesn't matter. The point of the story is, I at 18, however old I was, I asked my parents for permission to not go to school and to look at this industry as a career option. And my parents said, well, okay.
How
if-
wild that up to that point you didn't think that was
Yeah,
At all.
a career.
no.
Yeah.
At all. Like I didn't, this was like very much like I kept getting hired and it was
You're
a
so
fun-
unique.
I don't know if it's unique. It's
No,
just
I
a
think
different
it-
perspective,
It's
right?
very unique. It's by the way, if you got to pick for your kid how they would experience this thing, this would be my pick for my
sure.
kids, which is like you never had any stakes on it. You
None.
weren't like, oh, I got to do this, and these movies got to work, and this is going to be my career. There's
Because
no
my-
panic. I've seen this with child actors around me. It's like they're panicked, the parents are panicked.
Because they're panicked. Parents are panicked.
Yeah.
My parents
Yeah.
never panicked. My parents work full time. They have
Yeah.
my hobby.
You also probably had saved so much more money than they must have thought. Well, fuck, she's fine. This
Yeah.
is the amount of money we could make in a lifetime. So
Totally.
we're good. Yeah.
Totally.
Perspective.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is. I think my parents were like, well, she's going to be okay for a second.
Yeah.
So they allowed me to go and defer from college if I was going to make it a career. So at 18, to your point, I stopped looking at this industry as a hobby and was like, okay, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And so I knew 70s was coming to an end. And back whatever this was, 10, 15, 20 years ago, everybody was like, okay, so you're gonna have to do another show. We're gonna, you're gonna audition for. I'm like, I'm not gonna do another show. And they're like, no, but that's what.
No, but you're gonna.
You're gonna do another show. And I was like, no. And they're like, okay. And I was like, I'm gonna go and audition for everybody because everybody only remembered me from 70s.
Yeah.
Nobody was like aware of, and the industry has such a ability to put you in a quadrant back then.
Sure.
Not anymore, I don't think. Where like if you're a comedian, you're just a comedian. If you do
Yeah.
TV, you're just TV. And I was like, I just had this urge to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So then from 18 to 22, whenever I got Sarah Marshall because I couldn't do another movie for Judd. And Judd was the...
Oh, you had auditioned for Knocked Up.
That's what it
and
was.
didn't get it.
Correct.
Yeah, but he
And-
remembered you.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
the Katherine Heigl character, for the
Yeah.
lead.
Yeah, so I had to go and like we improv with like Seth Rogen. This was before anybody knew who anybody was.
You would have felt a tiny bit young.
That's what I was gonna say.
At that moment.
You know, it's one of those situations where I'm sure that's part of the reason, if not, but like, I
Yeah.
kept reading with him. So there's clearly
Yeah.
something that like...
Well, he probably
we're
loved
for.
you, and then
Yeah.
ultimately it was like, it's a little
looks
weird
too
that a
young.
20-year-old's getting knocked up. It's a different story.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, something about Heigl, you're like, oh, cool. She probably wanted to have a kid, but didn't have a chance. So this isn't all bad. But I'm watching
Mine
a
raises
teenager.
more
I'm like,
questions.
well,
Yeah.
they just fucked up her life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe not the same.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen. And then when Sarah Marshall happened, then it was like, okay, so I did Sarah Marshall, and then everyone's like, okay, great. So now you're going to just do romantic comedies.
Sure.
And I was like, no. And so I think because I kept pushing back, I learned so much more about myself and the ability to say no.
Well, what is cool about Sarah Marshall is that they because of Judd, they I'm sure had the ability to cast pretty much anyone they wanted in either of those roles, and they did choose to go with two actresses who were just TV actresses. I'm
Yeah.
using quotes; you can't see
Yeah.
it. I think that was a kind of a cool move on their part.
I think that their whole foundation was based on television. And so you remember Freaks and Geeks,
Yeah,
everybody came out of
everyone
Freaks
there
and
is
Geeks. Judd is not like prejudiced against TV, film, comedy, drama. Like of all things, his whole group and his whole team, I think, were
Yeah.
exceptional back then.
And how was your experience on Sarah Marshall?
I had the best time ever. It was
You
like,
and Belle fell in love, right?
yes, it was like being at camp, but your camp was fully paid for and
Yeah.
it was luxury. Like it was an incredible experience.
Who did you bond with the most on that movie? Who
Jack
you-
McBrayer. I
Oh,
spent so much
yeah.
time with.
What a funny
I
guy
love
he
Jack.
is, huh?
I still talk to Jack.
Yeah, he's so lovely. Does he send you really mean birthday texts?
Always.
Yeah.
And like mean, aggressive, like hip hop rap, like lyrics, because he and I bonded over like, the fact that we all know every single pop song.
Yeah, he sends Kristen these birthday texts that's like, you're a vapid piece of shit.
Yeah.
Your career is blah, blah, blah. They're
Yeah.
so funny.
He used to write cards. He was like an avid
Oh, yeah, yeah,
thank
we
you
have some
carder,
of those.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then he would write the most beautiful thank you card, and then across the whole card he would write "fuck you," like,
Yes,
big red
I hope
letters.
you
and
die.
you'd be like, Jack McBrayer.
Yeah, and it's in this tasty little innocent package,
I know.
which makes it all the
I
more
love him.
better. So was there somebody? So that movie that worked huge, and then that was very much a breakout role for you. Was there someone's career at that moment you were?
No.
Stop not fitting into my stereotypes. I don't
No.
like it. I've got nowhere to go if you're completely
Because
original.
I think that I'll take this as a
there
compliment.
wasn't an
I don't know.
actress you were like, that's the shit.
No, because
No,
everybody was doing
Dax,
it.
no.
Was Dax Shepard.
Listen to me.
I didn't want to be in romantic comedies.
Okay.
And it took me forever to do another one again because I was
Okay.
like, I just want to prove people wrong. It was that
Right.
whole like concept of if this is gonna be my career, I don't want to be famous.
Right.
I just want to keep working.
Yes.
And so I was like, the only way I can keep working is if I keep doing different aspects of this industry,
Yeah.
not oversaturating it, and not being annoying.
Yeah.
And so that's, maybe some people disagree, but that's my one tactic going into it, is like longevity.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like there was nobody that I could emulate other than like your obvious actresses who were still working. It's like, I just
Yeah.
want to be working and doing things I'm proud of.
Right.
And that was the one thing that I was like, whether this movie does it well or this movie tanks, I realized early on it's out of my control.
Yeah.
I can go and do the best job I can do, and then what gets Frankenstein in the edit room is not, I have no control over it.
Yes.
So I might
yes.
as well
you
pick
hand it over. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I, for myself, for my own self-worth, was like, I want to pick projects that inspire me, that I can grow from, that I can learn from, that I want to surround myself with people that are better, smarter than I am, that I can educate myself from, and then be like, if it's a failure, I still benefited.
Right. That's a great
That's it.
strategy. I went and saw that movie at the premiere, accompanying Kristen. We just had started dating when that movie came out. And I thought there were two kind of miracles of that movie. One is Kristen is the antagonist. She's the bitch who cheated on the guy. And I couldn't, she was so likable. It was so weird to like have compassion for the bad guy, the villain, and care, like be moved by her when she was sad and everything. That to me was a huge accomplishment. And then you, and I even remember because we were just starting to date, I was like, I got to really monitor how many compliments I'm saying out loud about Mila, because I thought you were spectacular.
Thanks, Dax.
This is going to be the phase of the interview that makes you very uncomfortable, because to me there was back-to-back performances where I was like, oh my God, this is my female Russell Crowe. You were so unbelievably natural and real in Sarah Marshall, which is a kind of heightened reality. But then beyond that, Black Swan, which you weirdly get from Sarah Marshall, right?
Totally.
Darren
Really?
Aronofsky had seen her in that and thought she could do this.
Another, like a Judd Apatow type that I think, people in this industry, I hope, learn from like certain aspects of these humans, that they allow people to break stereotypes that otherwise wouldn't be handed to them.
Yeah.
But I will say, prior to Black Swan, I was able to do another movie that was a drama filled with like incredible actors that I will always respect these two directors for hiring me, coming from comedy.
Which movie was that?
It was Book of Eli, and it was Denzel Washington and Gary Oldman and myself.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, how did I get into these three humans? Like, it was such a crazy aspect. And so that happened right after.
I had that moment during the table read of The Judge. I was like, okay, Robert Downey Jr., Robert Duvall, Billy Bob Thornton, Vincent D'Onofrio. Who let Dax Shepard in here? It's a very
So
funny
Black
feeling.
Swan was like one of those where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. But what the fuck's this movie about? Like, it wasn't so clear
Yeah.
Right.
in perspective where Nat and I were like, what are we doing? Like, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Then before it was released, I did Book of Eli. And in Book of Eli, I was like, how did I get myself into this group of three humans? And then Black Swan hit.
Right. So I went to see Black Swan for two reasons. A, I loved Darren Aronofsky movies. And Natalie Portman had been my number one my whole life. Had a picture of her in my toolbox.
Yeah.
Closest I've ever gotten to hanging posters of someone was Natalie Portman. So I go to see her. I'm her number one fan.
Yeah.
I think her performance is stunning.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What a beast.
Yeah.
But I am, within the first 20 minutes, I'm like, well, hold on. I'm not so interested in Natalie Portman.
Oh.
Mila is...
Dax, you're so nice.
I mean, dead serious.
Oh my God.
Again, I felt like I had to kind of tamper how I said this to Kristen, because I think we watched it together. But I was like... Let me just say, I think my favorite performance I've ever seen an actor do is Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler. Did you ever see The Wrestler?
Yeah.
I think what Daniel Day-Lewis does is so cool. I can't comprehend what he does. He
Yeah.
becomes other people and these accents and all that shit. But never when I'm watching Daniel Day-Lewis does it trigger a memory of how I acted in a situation. And there's a moment in The Wrestler where Mickey Rourke has trashed the store he works at. And then he gets into his van, he's been fired, and he looks in the rearview mirror. And I just know 99.999% of actors would have looked in the mirror and done some shameful face and like, brooded. And he looked at himself and he started laughing at himself because he was so embarrassed by what he just did. And I was like, oh my God, I've had that moment like 20 times where it's like I do something humiliating. Then I go pee. I just see my reflection in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, you're such a disaster. And I start laughing. And it brought me back to that. I had that feeling watching you the entire time in Black Swan. I was like, this is a real human being I'm watching a real human being. Totally forget it's you. This is a real person. You were just so natural in that movie. It was unbelievable. I don't really know how you did that. I think the really tempting thing would have been to do for you is, I'm in a Darren Aronofsky movie. I've got to really act my ass off. Like, did that cross your mind? Like, I've got to. I just think it took a lot of courage to go in there and just do the thing you did. Did any of this cross your mind, or did you
I let Darren guide me. I will
did?
say this: I'm pretty sure there's a million different characters on the cutting room floor. I think Darren and
Really?
I did this character every which way possible in every take.
And was it very challenging while you were shooting it?
Yeah.
How does your ego take? I'm not great at this. I get defensive pretty easily. If I start feeling insecure on set, then I get combative a little bit.
Totally.
How are you in that scenario?
Same.
I'm so relieved. I would have felt like the only
100%
asshole.
the same. But I will say this about Darren. I think before we started production, he was like, listen, this character can go any which way. And we rehearsed and we did it every which way. We did her polite, mean, evil, crazy, not crazy. Every which emotion was always like an acting class.
Yeah.
And then we would show up to work and we'd be like, so I guess we'll just do it every which way.
Yeah.
And you just have to cut it together because it was just such a weird character to play. Oh, I know how she is. You'd be
Yeah.
like, you don't, because it's such it's manipulation, right? You
Yeah.
manipulate the audience. And so, and I will always give Darren credit for it. He works with his actresses in a very specific way.
And what is the approach?
He breaks them down a little bit.
He does.
No, he's
so like
he's,
you would do a take, right? Let's just say you come into a room
He
and
comes
you
in
say,
very
"Hey,
quietly.
I forgot my briefcase in here."
Yeah.
And you do that once, and then
Yeah.
what he says, "Cut." And what does he say to
and
you?
he comes to you very quietly.
You're a fucking piece of shit.
He-
Cut. You're a piece of
Can you
shit.
imagine? I would
You're a
cry.
loser.
I would cry. Dax, it would probably be. I don't know what I would do. He's not that mean. Darren is one of the loveliest, nicest, funniest human beings on the planet, and is super chill and not nearly as dark as people want him to be. He would just come and give you like two words.
Two words.
2 words. It's anything from like
Like
you don't-
inspiration words?
Yeah,
or-
like he'd be like, okay, no, you don't really like her. You think she's a bitch, and just walk away.
oh, that's
It's
fun.
really simple.
Okay.
It's not like aggressive towards how you previously had done it. It's just like a
Good.
different take.
Yes.
Think of it this way.
That's
Think
great.
of it that way.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. And so because the character was such a weird, like, is she real? Is she not real? Where is she? When we rehearsed it, he was like, what do you think she's really saying? Every single line he made me break down and be like, what is she saying when she's saying this? What is she saying? I don't think that justifies every character you ever do in a movie, but
Sure.
definitely a character that may or may not exist.
Yeah.
It's
And that could even lead to the thing I was talking about where people end up just acting way too much. They're like, every sentence is like some life-ending declaration.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that.
No, but I also, it's such a weird thing. Because I think I've been doing this for so long. There's so many actors that come to work and they're actors and they
Yeah.
want to make sure that you know and you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
are actors and they are serious actors
Yeah.
and everyone needs to do like this
Yeah.
because I'm a serious actor. I am the polar opposite. Like I hate that environment. I'm like, we don't all need to act like we're always acting. Like
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
okay to just chill the fuck
And
out.
where do you think that comes from? Because I have a few theories on why actors do that.
Why actors act like they're acting to feel
Yes,
like
whether
they're important.
explaining to you how much research they did, how much practice
to
they did.
justify themselves
justify-
being like a real actor. I think so many egos get involved and they're like, well, I'm a great actor. I do so much work and you need to respect me because I'm the best and this is why I'm the best and look at what I do. Now be quiet, sit there, only wear black, don't look at me, look away. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst environment for me to be in.
Yeah. I have a couple theories. One
Tell
is it's a silly fucking job. And you almost
think so.
feel silly on some level. You're like, wait, this is the job. I got to say these lines. Someone wrote on a piece of paper in front of that camera that's pointed at me. So there's almost some weird guilt built in, like, this can't be it. Like, this is all I got to do. So I feel guilty or fraudulent that that's all I'm doing. So I'm going to do all this extra work to justify that this is a job worth doing or something. Like, there's some weird, you feel a little fraudulent of like, it can't just be this, could it?
Interesting theory.
So I gotta make this really complicated to justify why I'm getting this big paycheck.
Yeah.
That's one theory. Another one is we all feel scared. We all feel like we don't deserve to be there. We all feel outclassed by other people. So you're basically telling everyone else around you, like, I do deserve to be here. I have this backstory, and I went and hung out with homeless people for 7 months. Like, you're almost like cutting
But
them
see,
off,
that
heading
doesn't
them off at
bother
the
me as
pass.
much. I don't mind people doing homework.
Right.
I actually think homework's great. I do so much homework. I do so much homework, and then I show up to set and I throw it all away.
Okay.
Right? And I'm like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I know what I need to know, right?
Yes.
It's done. That's not my issue. My issue is the people that come to set and on set are like, I'm a serious actor. And so my theory behind that is not necessarily all that. I think if people think if they don't act serious, then they won't be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as that. Like,
Yeah. Well, and I just shit on actors, but I will also defend them and say we have the only job on set that we will fail at our job many, many times in front of the whole crew. It's not like the lighting guy. They go, put a 10K, turn the 10K on, and he tries to turn the light on and it won't go on. Then he puts another cord and tries and it won't go on. And we all stand there for 20 minutes watching him try to turn a light on and he's failing.
Yeah.
If that happened to that guy, he'd have some weird shit. Associated with that job. But we do, we fail at the job in front of all these people, sometimes 20 times in a row, sometimes 30 times in a row. And it's a very, it can lead to a lot of fear.
100%.
Yeah, so I am sympathetic to people who...
Me too.
Yeah.
I think that there's times when you just want it to be quiet. Like, I get it. It's just the idea of like always having to be so exhaustingly serious.
And you've had explosive relationships with directors?
Not explosive because but I've had hard relationships.
I'm just going to state my observation about you is you're a baller. You're like, I've seen you on the set of both Bad Moms. Like, you have a lot of ownership over that space. You're very outspoken. You seem to have boundaries. You're assertive.
That's interesting.
In a very good way, I think, in a healthy way. And I'm curious, is that something that developed, or have you always been that way? Is that the Russian immigrant girl that's just got a lot of fight in her? Is it your parents? Were you in work situations where after the fact you're like, I gotta fucking learn to stand up for myself? Or is it just natural to you? Or is it
all of that?
It's all of it.
I think so. I think like if you're gonna break it down psychologically of what led to it, probably all of it. I guess I do it subconsciously. So I guess I'm not necessarily aware of that I am assertive or not. That's the God's honest truth.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Okay.
But I think that I respect my job.
Yeah.
And I think that I respect the people that I work with. And that's it. Like, we're all there trying to do the same thing. And if I show up to set and I'm an asshole, why should anyone be nice to me, right? So, like, I try to just be like, let's just do this. Let's do this well. Let's all enjoy ourselves and let's move on and, go home and see our families.
Yes.
I don't know if that's assertive. Maybe I don't know. But I don't know, Dax. I guess.
I think you're assertive.
Do you think so?
I do.
In what regard, then?
I think male actors get away with a lot. And I think a lot of actresses don't, for whatever reason, probably because it's a male-dominated industry, they don't feel empowered to be just as loud of a voice as anyone else is. So I think it's unique when you see a woman that feels that recognizes her contribution, her value, and her power in the scenario and uses it.
But what do you think that I'm doing?
I think you do that.
But what am I doing? I guess I this genuine question. What do you think that I'm doing?
You are outspoken on set.
Regarding what?
Let's say Bad Moms.
Okay, tell me.
A take happens.
Yeah.
You're not going over to your chair and start texting and wait for someone to come tell you what they think the thing should be. You're going, no, I think it should be this. You're very vocally involved in what it should be.
Okay, so now I understand. I didn't realize that was what assertive
You're
meant.
not a passenger on a movie set.
No, but that
Right.
took me a very long time.
Well, that's what I'm curious about.
So now I understand
I
assertive. I guess I didn't quite understand the semantics.
I think there are people that are you're in a very small group of people, that's male and female, that are you're the star. You're the face that's on the poster, and movies get greenlit based on you. And I think there are some women that, even though they're that, they don't ever own that, the power of that, or you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. It's so funny you pointed it out. I think it took me, and I will say this, and maybe this is going to get me in trouble. It took my husband for me to have that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
That's
okay, interesting.
great to say.
Yeah, tell me how.
But it is great. It is. I'm sure I'm gonna get in trouble
there's a
for, like,
second
owning
layer
it,
to
but-
this. There's a second layer to this that'll come up.
So much of my confidence
Mm-hmm.
in who I am, in what I'm capable of,
Your contribution to things.
my contribution comes from Ashton.
saying to you,
Because he
can
hey,
get-
recognize.
Yeah, because by the way, it's not like my other partners or anybody in my life never did. It's you know, to say like lead by example.
Yeah.
When you look at him and when we started dating, and I realized how he how he held himself, how he did business, how he spoke to people, I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. So like, I've said this before in the past, but I'll break this down really small. Negotiating.
Well, good, because that was the second part I was going to come up with. Because I've also observed in you that you know your value. You get
Now
paid
I
what you're
do.
worth.
Yeah.
Which is also rare.
So I'll say this, and
Yeah.
I say this to everybody, and I think that I learned this. I'm happy I learned it in my life. I'm bummed that I learned it later in life.
Yeah.
But, okay. When you're in this industry, you have a manager, agent, publicist, lawyer, you have a bunch of entities that are working for you all around you at all times, and you let them do their job, okay? So I come from the school of thought, let the agent be the agent, the manager, the lawyer, the this. So I stood back and I was like, just herd me. Tell me where I'm supposed to go. I'll go to my audition. I'll act out, and then I get the, whatever. That's my job.
Yeah.
I started dating Ashton, and he was like, that's not your job.
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'd come and I would say something about like a job, an offer on a job. And he was like, get on the call. And I was like, but my lawyer's on the call and they're doing the thing. And he goes, get on the call.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I get on the call?
Right.
And he was like, of course you can. And it wasn't until he told me that not only should I, but that I could,
Yeah.
did everything change for me. And then I started taking notes on all my calls. I would take notes and I was like, I don't know what this word means. I don't know what is below the line.
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
like
yeah.
at gross?
Yeah,
What are these
yeah.
terminologies?
What is break even plus 20?
Like, what are these things? And I
Yeah.
would literally like be on my computer as these conversations were happening and start like researching terminology that I should have known when I was 20.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
And so why should somebody else be fighting for me when I could barely fight for myself? And you
do
have to say
that-
that you'll walk away.
Yes.
And that's when I think everything happened for me,
Well-
was when I walked away for the first time.
Right. And here's what's really, really tricky. The wage gap is a very real thing.
I
That's
think
an
I know
obvious
what
thing.
you're Yeah.
But it is also multifaceted, which is challenging for people. They want it to be one thing or the other. Certainly a huge part of it is misogyny. That men don't see women as having the same value as men have. So that's a big chunk of it. Start by saying that. But in our industry in particular, people aren't going to pay you one penny more than they have to. That's just a fact. A studio's not trying to pay someone equally. They're not trying to pay anyone fairly. They're trying to get you for as cheap as humanly possible. And I witnessed this with Belle. We, at the time where we had similar movie careers, I was making twice as much as her.
Yeah.
I didn't provide twice as much value. We'd all agree on that. But I would say no, and she just wouldn't say no. It wasn't in her nature. So part of this wage gap that exists within our industry, there's misogyny, there's a lot of bad things. Also, we need to educate women on their value and the power of saying no on some level, right?
So, yeah, it's so
It feels
hard.
unfair that you guys would have to start acting the way we do business, but it is a market. It's just a market. You can't be mad or sad at a market.
I think that the people that can say no should say no. And I think it's unfair for me to ask a woman who is a single mom who has to raise her child to say no.
Yeah.
I won't. I wouldn't,
Exactly.
but I can do
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
So I'm in a position where I can say no. And that's what happened. I got in a
Right.
position where I was able to say no. And so,
But then you find out the true value because, by the way, they have a number. They have a very specific number where the project no longer makes sense to pay you X amount of money. You would have to do this amount of business, whatever. But that number is known. And it's real simple. If you walk away the time, then they're going to move on, which
Yeah,
also happens.
they
And that's
did.
what you got to roll the dice on.
and that's what I was okay with. But I was only okay with it because I had a partner that said, it's okay.
Right.
Like, I no longer felt like I was alone in this. And so it was a really weird, interesting situation. And I don't think that I don't want this to be misconstrued as like, you can't walk away unless you have a partner. I think
No,
that
no,
now
no.
in life, I have a very different perspective. But at the time, the reason why I was able to walk away like gracefully and happy with my decision, regardless if that movie did well or didn't do well,
Yeah.
is because I had somebody going, you deserve more.
Right.
And not that I didn't think that I deserved more before, but I was so scared that, like, if I didn't do this, that people were going to think I'm a bitch, or people were going to
Yeah.
think of me as lesser than.
Well,
or
there
like,
are some gender stereotypes that are worth mentioning, which
Completely.
is our women, thank fucking God, are generally the compromisers in a family. They're the ones going, okay, son, you're yelling at dad, and dad, you're doing this, and here's a middle road for you guys to
Yeah.
pursue. Men, unfortunately, are like fueled with testosterone. They're like, no, let's burn this fucking thing to the ground. It's bad. It's not good.
But men don't do deals on emotions.
Correct.
Women do.
Yes.
So that's a big.
yeah.
That is a
It's
huge
by the way,
difference.
it's your superpower is your emotion.
Yeah.
That's what makes you infinitely better than us in many, many ways.
Sure.
But I think it's okay to recognize it as a potential liability when demanding your worth.
It is. It's a huge
Yeah.
difference. I've never seen a man be like emotionally drained from a deal. It happens, right? Because but like I take everything so personally.
Yes.
And my counterpart in life doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, just like, I think that's just male,
He
female
also
brain,
does so much business.
which is where I learned so much of this from. I mean,
Yeah.
it really does happen from like lead by example. And my example in business all of a sudden was my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
smart.
he himself has done very well for himself. He's generally always done well in all deals. He just has that innately in him to.
You know what it is, Dax? He educated himself. It wasn't like he's had other people do his deals for him.
Right.
And so, like, you can say that he does well by this circumstance, that he's told you, whatever it is. The truth is, he simply educated himself from the ground up. He learned how to make a deal. He learned how to vet a company. He learned how to just do all the things
Yeah.
that like normal people go through business school and learn.
Was there a job, and you don't have to name it, but was there a job where after the fact you went, holy fuck, they were all making X and I was making Y?
Yeah,
That happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
It happened, and then I walked away.
It's kind of embarrassing, right? On some level, it's like
wasn't
it's like being conned or something.
Yes. It was also like just like a weird fuck you. And I was like, wow, that's a big fuck you to me. But you know what? It's okay because
But
it grounded
again,
me.
but again, that's where I would go. It's not a fuck you to you. They're going to pay everyone the least amount they can. It really is on
so
you,
when the
you know?
second turnaround happens, right? And like, let's say there's like another one that's maybe going to happen. You're like, all right, we're going to fucking even the score on this one, right?
Yes.
And then they're like, no.
Right, right.
Then you go, touche, my friend.
Well
Touche.
played.
And then I walked away.
Yeah.
But I oddly, in a weird way, feel like it happened at a really good time in my life, and I was very humbled by it.
Yeah.
And like I was like, it's cool.
Yeah. And again, I just want to acknowledge it is unfair that you basically, my recommendation is you're going to have to act more male in these negotiations, and you're going to have to say, fuck you, I'd rather
Historically
not.
male. How about that? Male
Yeah,
won't get you in
yeah.
trouble. Historically male within our industry.
I don't think it's fair that that's the compromise, but I also think the market is what the market is.
Yeah, I think that sometimes actresses go into like, I want this, or actors, and then you're like, but you're not worth that.
Yes.
There are incredible programs out there that you can literally just type in the name and it'll tell you exactly the probability of how much that movie's going to make if you combine these actresses together. This program does exist. It is in this industry.
Yeah.
And if people follow it, I have no problems. But people
Right.
don't follow it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they'll be like, they'll lowball the female
Yes,
100%
always.
of the time.
Yes.
100% of the time. There was a movie that without mentioning names, that we were trying to make, and it was the director, myself, and another actress. And it was just the two women, and this was maybe 5 years ago. So it was a little bit before like the whole like let's make all movies by women for women. It was a male director, two ladies, myself and someone else, and so many studios passed. One movie studio didn't pass, but so many movies passed, and they were like, well, but what? It's two girls in a movie.
Right,
And the other
right.
one was incredibly well known and incredibly well respected. And we ran the algorithm, and it all worked out. And they were like, right, but who's the man?
Right,
And we were
right.
like, but there is no man. It's just us ladies.
Did you bring Bad Moms to STX?
No.
You didn't. You were just hired as the.
So I read it when I was pregnant, and it was a whole other cast.
Yeah.
Other actresses were attached, or another
okay.
actress was already attached.
Oh, okay.
And I read it because another girlfriend of mine read it, and she was like, this is just funny. You just had a baby. You'll find the script funny. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'll read it. And I read it, and I was like, this shit's really funny.
Yes.
Put it aside, never to be talked about ever again. And then I was talking to somebody, and I was like, there's this really funny script, Bad Moms. What happened to it? And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah is going to drop out. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they came to me with the offer.
Okay. So you
Somebody
weren't-
else dropped out of it. But it was the first movie I did after I took a minute off from the industry.
How long did you take off?
2 years?
Were you nervous during that time at all?
Horrified.
Yeah.
Oh, during the 2 years or during the movie?
During the 2 years.
No.
You weren't.
No, I started a TV production company.
Oh, okay.
I was so stoked. It was
Oh,
great.
good.
Oh, my God. I had the best time.
That's
I
great.
still have my company.
You're anomalous in a lot of ways. Like I'm very happy for you that you didn't have that panic of like, God, I'm going to be forgotten
Oh, no, I was okay with being forgotten for a
at
second.
that moment. Are you jealous of anyone?
No,
No one.
no.
Like, let me tell you, I look at this motherfucker.
Brad Pitt.
No. I look at this guy. Help me out, Monty.
I need more
Our
info.
favorite. I don't want to give any clues. I want you to just look in my eyes and know who
Our favorite.
Our favorite.
Chris Pratt.
Well, I love him. But no, writer, director, actor, musician. Donald Glover.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay.
I look at this
Yeah, we
piece of
love him.
shit, Donald Glover. This fucking son. And I go, how talented could you be?
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
The dancing and the singing and the directing and the writing and the acting. It's like I am, in the most wonderful way, I'm so intimidated by that guy's talent, his genius. Do you
Well,
feel that way
there's
about
a lot of people
anyone
that inspire
professionally?
me.
Okay, who inspires you? You don't have to say
No,
to me, 'cause I'm
no.
here.
Dax Shepard. I think anybody that steps out of their comfort zone and takes a risk. Anybody from like, I only say this is the first time it pops up, is like a Brie Larson, who was like an actress who then decided to, I think, direct a movie. Right? Anytime anybody decides to step outside their comfort zone and try
Yeah.
something new, I always find to be incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the scariest, is when you get so well respected from one piece of craft, and then you're like, you know what? Let me do something else in this industry.
Yeah.
That makes you so vulnerable, I feel like.
But there's no one that you like. You'll see and you go like, I'm embarrassed to even be in the same business as them. Like what they're doing versus what I'm doing.
I you know what?
You're so healthy.
Yeah,
Good
no,
self-esteem.
I can really look at people. I really can, and be like, they're doing great, without having to look at myself and be like, why am I not like them?
Right. That's really good.
That's really great.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe another version would be, a little bit nice to like have a little fire up your ass.
No,
But like,
it's
Well,
healthy.
did you see the Defiant ones?
I did. I loved it.
I loved it, and as much
Loved
as I
it.
was loving it, I was like, "You're a lazy piece of shit. Who are you? What are you doing? Look at these people.
Isn't that
What are
crazy?
you doing?"
I know. I looked at it and
I
I was
find
like,
it a little
fuck yeah, I'm doing
challenging.
the same thing. I was
That's fantastic.
me
I'm
and-
Jimmy Iovine.
Me and Jimmy are on the same page. I was like,
that's
Dre should call me and we will make headphones together.
That's why you and Belle are like, you work well together, because Belle's the same way.
It's delusion, is all it
Yeah,
is.
it's
Like,
wonderful,
Me
though.
and Dr. Dre clearly on the same path, guys.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference? You know what? I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'll say it. I didn't see La La Land until yesterday on the plane. Okay, so I
Okay.
lied for years and said that I
Sure,
saw
sure.
it and I voted for it for the Academy, but I really hadn't seen it. But it
Voted
looked
for
great,
it.
and I
Yeah.
love Emma Stone, so I was like, I'm clearly voting
Yeah, I
for
love
this
her.
movie. Love her.
She's someone if I were you, I might think that about.
So my point is, I didn't. I was like, I didn't see this movie, but I know Emma's going to be amazing in it.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I was like, Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And then yesterday on the plane, I was watching this and I was like, oh, she did such a great job. I'm so happy for her.
Yeah.
Like, that's my, and I
That's
genuinely
great.
think that, like, what am I going to aspire to do? Be like them? Then I won't be myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like you. I would imagine a lot of fucking actors watched you in Black Swan and was like, I'm fucked.
I don't think so.
The way I
yeah.
looked at Vince Vaughn when I saw Wedding Crashers, I was an aspiring comedian.
Yeah.
I was trying to become an actor, and I saw him in that movie. I was like, fantastic. He said every funny thing that can ever be said. The job's over.
It's so
I'll
funny.
never rival that. It's over. That's how I felt
I
about
can look
that
at like
performance.
your Rachel McAdams and the Emma Stone and like Jen Lawrence, like anybody, and be like, they're doing so fucking great.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the more of them that there are out there in a diverse setting, the more accessibility this industry will happen, will possess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. On the car ride home from parties, what are you most likely to replay in your mind and be critical of?
All the dumb shit that I said.
Okay. So mostly you put your foot in your mouth? Is
All
that
the
your-
time.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll say things and then later I'm like, why? Just
I've
be
been
quiet.
I've been lucky enough to be the recipient of one that will remain nameless, but it gave me such pleasure to get a call from you that was like, oh no, I put my foot in my
Dax.
mouth. This is going to be a disaster. And I was, you know what made me happiest? As that's usually me. I'm somewhere, I say something I shouldn't said, and then I've got to call somebody. And it was so fun to be on the receiving end of a call. And I never gave a flying
But
fuck
you
about the whole thing.
responded, which
It
was so lovely, because I've also had that done where I texted someone and then they didn't respond, and I was like, oh my God.
Oh, it was about him.
Yes, I
Yeah,
put my
yeah,
foot
yeah.
in my mouth
Oh.
about
Yeah.
Dax to somebody, and then I literally, the conversation ended. That person walked away, and I was like, "What did I do?" Like, I had that moment of like
Yeah.
sheer panic, and I turned to Ashton, and I was like, "I need to call Dax," and he was like, "You, no, it's okay," and I was like,
Oh,
"No,
I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. It
was
felt
so fun.
fine.
It
It
was
was
so
so
fun.
fine.
It ended up being fine because you took it fine.
Yeah, well, I loved it because
Not
anytime something's happening to someone else, it generally happens to me. It just makes me elated with gratitude. That is, I'm like, oh, this is normally me. I'm usually calling somebody and going, oh, shouldn't have said this. Okay, so there was that. Okay, so my thing is when I'm driving home from a party, I'm like, dude, let someone talk. Ay. Like every time I leave somewhere, I'm like, you talked 90% of the time you were there, and I'm so embarrassed by it. But your thing isn't over talking.
Yes, it is, I think.
Oh, it
so
is.
I think so. I think I just like conversations. And I don't think that I realized how much I add to the conversation, literally, until my friend pointed it out not that long ago. We were on a double date, and a friend of mine's girl that he was seeing, we were meeting her for the first time, like chit-chatting with her. We leave the date, and I was like, well, she wasn't very talkative. And then so we spoke to our friend the next day, and I was like, I didn't tell you, she didn't have much to say. And he goes, because you wouldn't shut the fuck up. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was so inclusive. Like, I kept asking you questions. And then you kept answering them for her. And I was like, oh, noted. So maybe I have a tendency to voice my opinion on everything.
But when I've been around you and you're talking a lot, again, I pray this is what people take away from me is that I just see you as so enthusiastic, and that to me is very endearing.
That's because you're nice.
No, it's like when you've talked to me about the podcast, you just start going, and I'm like, this is so awesome. She's so enthusiastic. I love it. This could go on for 3 hours, and I enjoy it.
Because you're confident in yourself.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Is that what it is?
It depends on who's the recipient of this.
Sure. She could just come off as a blowhard, like, oh, she's most popular here. I guess she should talk the whole night.
Right.
Exactly. You, on the other hand, are like perfectly confident in yourself, where you're like, well, I guess I'll just sit back and be entertained by this for a second.
Yeah.
And that's not a lot of people.
So when I started dating Kristen, it took years before. By the way, let me disclaimer. This is from my point of view. This could be all delusion in my head, but from my point of view, it took years before people embraced that Kristen and I were an item. I think for the first half of it, people were like, "What is she doing with that guy?" Yes. Well, look at that thing that's hanging above your head. 72% of people said they would not want to date me.
See how mean people are? It's such a weird thing. You look at it,
But
and
now,
you're like,
if you
it's
asked
so funny.
America, should Dax and Kristen be together? It would be the reverse number, right? It would be 72% would say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, none of this means anything, but I'll just say that I do think people were like, no. Why is America's sweetheart with a guy I've only seen play a dumbass, right? Because I've mostly made a career of playing dumbasses. I feel like there was similar blowback at first with you and Ashton. Was there?
Okay, so I don't have social media.
Okay. Oh, good for you.
Right?
No wonder you're so healthy. Yeah.
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 So there probably was,
Okay.
and I was just shielded from it by him.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where I knew there were going to be repercussions of this. I guess I didn't realize what they would be, but I was like, this is going to go one way or the other. Because I told
Right.
so here's my prelude to this. I told my mom I was seeing him. We were driving up Laurel Canyon, and I was like, Mom, I have to tell you I'm dating somebody. And she was like, oh, tell me who are you dating?
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to brace yourself for this one. And she was like, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, no, for real, brace yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm dating Ashton Kutcher. And she literally was like, shut the fuck up in Russian.
Really?
And I was like, no, I'm serious. I also may be in love with him. So
Buckle up.
And she was like, I don't, why? Like, there were so many thoughts that she couldn't process. And it definitely was just like, why isn't he, wait, what? Because there's so many versions of his life that people thought he was that he wasn't.
100%.
And so-
I, like you, have been on the inside of him for 15 years
Yeah.
now.
Never been on the internet.
That you know of. How do you know?
Maybe that's the story
We've
we're
taken
gonna get.
showers together.
Oh, good Lord.
But knowing him for 14 years, he played a dumbass on 70 Show. He plays a dumbass currently on The Ranch.
Yeah.
That's his sweet spot, too. We have the same one.
Yeah.
I know he's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I also know that I don't think is obvious to the outside world. One of the hardest working human beings I've ever met in my life, which
Yeah.
I find to be very attractive. Anyone that's industrious, I think, is attractive.
Me too.
And admirable. So I don't think those are two components of his persona that people are largely aware of. They
Yes.
think you, the fucking revelation from Black Swan, married Kelso. Or some people do.
Yeah, I think that people it was just such a weird trigger where, although I guess I really wasn't aware of this, but I will just say this. He was coming off of a divorce. He was way post-divorce. But I think there was a lot of misconceptions about the divorce. And because he was very private and respectful, he wasn't going to go and say anything. So he kind of just let rumors be rumors.
Yeah.
And so people believed in the rumors. And just let him have this new persona. That
By the way, amazing choice. I don't know that I could have made the same choice. I had to defend myself publicly. It's incredible. Yeah.
And he never did.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm just not. It's
just
not.
going to eat it.
Yep.
Eat my humble pie. Yeah.
And so people had like a weird perception of who he was based on rumors that he didn't correct because he never.
Sure. It would have felt disrespectful to the other person.
Exactly. So he just kind of let it be.
Yeah.
And so, it didn't matter to me because I knew the truth.
Yeah.
And we went into this relationship super transparent with one another. So we knew 100% each other's faults. We knew exactly who we were. We knew
Mistakes
exactly
you
who
had
we
both
used to
made.
be. Everything.
Yeah.
And we were like, I accept you for who you are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make a difference to me what Joe Blow down the street thinks.
Yes.
It's never the way that I lived my life.
Yes. And I just want to add, it never bothered me. I'm like, I never thought that I got, like, as much as I respect Kristen, think she's the catch, I never felt less than that I was so lucky to get her. I was like, no, I deserve her. I never felt like I didn't deserve her.
Yeah.
So that didn't bother me. It was just something I was aware of. I was like, oh, there's articles like, how on earth did he get her? There's those things. I'm aware that they're out there.
I think the only thing that I got was like, I don't even know. Like, I'm sure mine was like, had more to do with like infidelity in our aspect of things of like, wandering, like whatever it may be, less than like, how did he get her? It was less than that. It was more like coming fresh out of a divorce, stipulation.
All that muddy water.
Yeah.
But now you have two gorgeous kids.
Yeah,
They're
now
wonderful.
we're super boring.
And that littlest one, Bear. Holy smokes.
I know.
Holy
he's pretty
smokes.
cute.
Yeah, he's kind of delicious.
I almost brought him, by the way. I was like, oh, but I was like, I don't know. They'll let me like just have him run around.
Sure, I
Yeah,
would.
we would've.
I'm used to chaos.
Yeah, you are.
All right, so you've now made me tell the story a few times.
Twice. I've only made you tell it twice.
Yeah.
And this was the agreement that I will come on the show if
I
you tell this
retell.
horribly embarrassing story of yourself.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, there was a really popular movie called Real Genius with Val Kilmer. And there's a bad guy in the movie. And at one point, they say to the bad guy in the movie, hey, Chet, why were you naked in your room with a bowl full of Jello? And I was probably 8 or 9 when I heard that. And I thought, oh, that would feel nice to put your penis in some Jello.
Sure.
And, but my family didn't eat Jello, so we didn't have any in the house. So, but for 10 plus years, it was in my head that would feel nice to put your penis in some Jello. So when I finally moved to LA, I'm in an apartment, I'm all by myself, and all of a sudden it just occurs to me, oh my goodness, I could go to the store right now and buy Jello. I have a car, I've got money. So I go to Save On drugstore, and by some crazy luck, they're running a sale on Jello, and it's five boxes for $1. So I get 5 boxes of Jello because I'm like, this is going to feel awesome. I'll probably want to do this kind of often.
Oh boy!
So I go home and I make we'll just call it a mason jar full of Jello. Okay. And I make it. I've never made
flavor?
Jello. Well, hold on. That's
boy.
becomes
All
part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good question.
I make this batch of Jello, and I don't even realize like this shit's got to cool. And while I was making it, I'm getting aroused. I'm thinking like I'm about 5 minutes away from making love, and then come to find out, no, this needs to chill in the fridge. So then I put it in the fridge, and then I just sit there in my lazy boy in my apartment, waiting to have sex with this Jello.
So fucking crazy
It's
that you're
like
actually going to tell this story.
agonizing
Oh my God.
how long it's taking to cool this Jello down, right? So finally, it's ready. I go into the kitchen, I pull it out of the fridge. I don't like take it to the bedroom or anything. I'm like, I'll just do this here in the kitchen
Couldn't
because
wait.
where am I going to do it? It would have felt weird to take it to my bed and do it, right?
Yeah, that would have felt weird.
Yes.
Yeah,
then I'm like
sure.
role playing or
That's-
something. So I
Yeah, that's the weird part.
That's the part
That
really
totally.
pushes it over the edge.
Everything else is fine.
So I put my penis in this mason jar full of Jello. I give it a couple of pumps.
Yeah.
Within a couple of pumps, I'm just humping Kool-Aid. The whole thing is disintegrated. There's no resistance. There's no
just water.
friction. I'm just sloshing my penis around in a jar of red water. And I'm like, this was a complete disaster. There's red water all over my floor of my kitchen. And I just throw the thing in the sink, and I'm like, well, that was a disaster. I wake up the next morning, and I'm going pee, and I see on my penis, I have like some splotches on my penis. And I'm like, oh my God, the dye in the Jello attached itself to a sexual transmitted disease. I have some disease that the dye has adhered to, and it's exposed some disease I have. I'm convinced I have a venereal disease.
Okay.
I have no insurance, so I go to an LA free testing clinic. And I go in there, and they put me in this little behind a curtain thing. You know where this is going?
Yeah.
Okay, so the doctor comes in, and I can only assume that this lady graduated from medical school a minute and a half before she walked into the room. She had to be 24.
Oh, God.
And she was a 10. When I tell you she's a 10, I mean, she looked like Mila in Black Swan. Just couldn't get more attractive. So I stand up. She goes,
I feel like I peaked to you at Black Swan. Like
No. I had already established the hotness there, so I'm just now referencing it. But I was like, when she walked in, I was like, oh my goodness, this doctor is a 10. And so she goes, what's going on? And I said, well, and I'm not going to admit that I fucked a glass of Jello. So I said, my girlfriend and I were experimenting with Jello and fellatio. I'm trying to make it very medical. And she goes, okay. I said, there was Jello involved in oral sex and blah, blah. She goes, okay, well, let me see what's going on. She gets on her knees. I'm standing. I pull my penis out. She grabs it. She lifts it up. She looks at it, and she says to me, she looks up at me in my eyes, and she says, what flavor was the Jello? And I go, strawberry. And she goes, I like raspberry. And I became 105% erect immediately. She goes, I like raspberry. And I just got a raging boner straight in her face to the point where she kind of like had to back up a little bit. And she goes, that's nothing. You have a rash from the gelatin. You don't have an STD. And she let me go on my way. But she said, I like raspberry. And I got fully hard in her face. Story's not over.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
I then meet a girl, Bree.
Yes.
She then moves in.
Yeah.
We're living together. For about a year, occasionally after dinner, she would go, do you want me to make some Jello? And I go, no, I'm not in the mood for Jello. And she's like, okay. And then like a third time, do you want some Jello? Finally, like after a year of being together, and she's offered Jello like 5 times. I go, honey, I don't like Jello. I hate Jello. I'm never gonna want the Jello. She goes, why do you have four boxes of Jello if you hate Jello? And I go, because I fucked that Jello. I bought that Jello to have sex with it, and it didn't work out. And I don't know why I didn't throw the boxes away. They were only worth 80 cents. I don't know. And she's like, okay, you had sex with some Jello that's still in the...
Wow.
It's like an ex-girlfriend was still in the cupboard.
Dax, how many of these stories do you have, do you think?
Oh, it's dozens. Yeah.
I like raspberry. That...
She was definitely coming on, too.
Yes.
Right?
That was
For
on
sure.
purpose.
Yes.
No one would say that with your dick in her hands.
And I was 20. If a car beeped in a sexy way, I got a boner at 20.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're telling me I like raspberry with your face by my penis, and it's not gonna
And
get
knowing
aroused.
that you just did some sexual stuff with it. No, she definitely
Let me ask
did it
you
on
this
purpose.
though: had she known I really just fucked a glass of Jello, do you think she would have still said I like raspberry?
No.
Or she'd be like, "Oh, this guy's a loser.
Like, fuck that. There'd be no come on
This
afterwards.
guy's having sex with dessert in his
No.
kitchen."
Couldn't even make it to the bedroom.
It's a good story.
Well, that was my Jello story.
Thanks for telling it, Dax.
You're here because you have a movie, The Spy Who Dumped Me, coming out August what? Yep.
We'll
Great.
find out.
We'll
No, I'll
find
tell
out.
you.
I'll
It's
do it
like
in the
first week
intro.
of August.
First week of August.
It's like either the whatever,
1st
like
through
3rd,
7th.
4th, or 5th, whatever that day is, the Friday.
Right, and it's a big fun action comedy with.
It is a fun action comedy.
It is
Dax
right.
Shepard.
The I watched the trailer last
August
night.
3rd.
Kate McKinnon, August 3rd. Thank you.
Two
August
big
3rd.
pluses for me. Kate McKenna, who's
Yep.
crazy funny, right?
Super funny. One of the most brilliant, smart, interesting humans I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah, just so.
Talk about talent in a way where you watch and you're like,
Yeah.
well,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also not. You know how sometimes you get people and you're like, oh, you expect them to answer questions a certain way, and you can almost predict why they are the way they are, or where they.
Yeah.
She's the antithesis. Every time I was like, oh, I know how this is going to go down, and I would ask her a question, she would answer it completely.
Curveball.
It was awesome.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
But also the action in the trailer looked dynamite. Like there's some motorcycle
so
stuff I saw that was really
Tons.
cool.
It was so our action was the same guys that did Bond, all the Bond movies, and so our movie is a comedy, but our action is like
Top
very
notch.
legit, shot like an action movie.
Yeah.
But Kate and I don't play professional anythings. I play a girl that works at Schmader Schmoes. Okay, so we can't use the title, but Schmader Schmoes.
Yeah,
get it?
yeah,
Wink,
yeah.
wink. In Los Feliz.
Oh,
and
okay.
Kate plays like an inspiring actress in like Los Feliz. And so we are two schmucky girls trying to figure out our life. And we go on this adventure.
Your boyfriend dumps you, and it turns out he was in the CIA.
Correct.
Yes.
Or
Oh, by the
yeah.
way, and your boyfriend in the movie is Justin Theroux.
Yes.
Good
it was
friend of
great.
mine. Did you enjoy him?
I love him. I didn't know you guys were friends.
Sexy motherfucker. Anyone that rides motorcycles in Hollywood, I'm friends
You know.
with pretty
Oh,
much,
interesting.
Yeah. He and I
Yeah.
have done a lot of motorcycle rides.
He's great and was
Yeah.
like super game to do absurd shit.
Good, very good looking guy, and the body
Yeah.
is on point.
Very nice.
5% body fat. I don't know, something like that.
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Find out, I guess.
Yeah, I
guess
don't know,
I'll have
Dax.
to.
I
Fact
didn't
check it.
you really like him. Fact check that one.
Love men's bodies.
Yeah, he seems very fit. He takes care of himself.
Yes, he does. And did you
Justin's
guys go to
awesome.
Europe to shoot it?
Yeah. 3 months in Budapest.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever the number was.
And Budapest is two cities, right? Buda and Pest.
And it is divided by a river. Yeah.
The Nile. No.
No, that's Africa, but close, very close.
The
I lived on the
Colorado.
Buddha side, and we mostly worked on the Pest side. So I did Bad Moms too, and then for a month, 2 months, whatever that was, 2 months, and then the next week I flew everybody to Budapest. For 3
Oh,
months.
wow.
I'm probably never going to do that again.
Yeah, that can get rough.
That was rough.
after
It was
a
rough. It was an unfair situation for him because he still had to work.
Yeah. So he was
And
flying back and forth.
No,
nonstop.
he was just up all night. So the way that the time difference happened was he would be during the day with the kids, right? We had nannies, so it's not like he was
Yeah.
home by himself. And we had help.
Yeah.
And he was with the kids and the nanny doing activities and going out, whatever, keeping everybody
Yeah.
busy. And then at night he had to work. So he barely slept for whatever it was, 3, 4 months. And he was amazing. Never once complained, never once
Yeah.
said anything. And I was like, I respect you, thank you.
And one time in the podcast, I talked about getting to sit in on a Seder with people, and I didn't expose who the people were, but it was you guys, and you
Yes.
said you didn't care if I said
No,
that.
I thought it was really sweet. It was like a weird little shout out.
But it was such a lovely thing to, and me who's so anti-religion and all this stuff.
It was
and I'm
with
always on my high
Wendy.
horse. Mogul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys were talking about yes, because you were asking her. That's right. You said my friends do this.
Yeah.
And it's just something that Ashton and I decided to do amongst ourselves because I'm not religious
Right.
at all.
Right.
And Ashton is. When we started
You
dating,
know, you
he
occasionally sound like you're from New Jersey or Long Island. It's so
I hear it.
interesting.
I know.
At all. You
I
just
know.
threw an at all at me.
I know.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I have to like.
You've got kind of a Long Island vibe. It's really weird you're born and raised in LA.
so fucking.
Well,
weird.
not born and raised.
Well, that's true.
I think that I didn't. I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's some weird combination
Yeah,
of your...
it must
yeah.
be.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to sound like I was a valley girl when I was a teenager, and so I fought against it so much
Oh, huh. You
that I
went
think I went in the opposite
other way.
direction. Yeah.
But Seder that I sat on.
So Ashton,
so
when we started dating,
cute.
very religious. Very religious.
Yeah.
Very Jewish.
Counterintuitive to me, but whatever.
Not as much anymore.
Okay.
I not religious.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. And I was like, listen, buddy, I love you so very much. Let's like find a happy medium here.
Right.
Because that's not, I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not me.
Yeah.
So we found a happy balance of like, what I grew up with was tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think tradition is beautiful. I don't think it needs to be based on a book. I
Right.
think tradition is what you make it.
Sure.
And so, but to that point, I also think that the stories in the books, whatever you look at it, I think are really beautiful moral stories. So if you just look at them as like a right versus wrong
Yeah.
storytelling aspect, it's great. Like,
Fables.
Yeah.
yes. You don't need to start a war over them.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That's
right,
my
right.
argument against it.
Yes.
So let's just keep it as a really great story and let's uphold tradition. And I love the idea of regardless of where we are in the world, regardless of what we're doing, on Friday night, we take a minute to just acknowledge one another, to acknowledge our children, to acknowledge our family, say I love you, apologize for all the dumb shit that we did, and move on.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at Shabbat. To me...
it's Shabbat. What did I call it?
Seder. It's fine.
But it's a neat little reset for the family because these, I think resentments in general have a piling of nature to them. They just build on top of one another.
Yeah.
And it seems like a really practical physical activity you can engage in to regularly take out the trash.
So what do? You say, I'm
Housekeeping.
sorry if I did anything?
So we do. So a couple things happen. Most Shabbats are like hours long. Ours is
They
5
cover their
minutes.
faces in lamb blood. That's the first thing they do. They process a goat in
You want to participate? What if you come in and we did like a
you guys are
real?
covered.
Can you imagine? My parents would be like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, lamb skin.
Ours is
Jello everywhere.
By the way, I was like, I'm going to make you Jello. And I looked at my pantry and was like, I don't have Jello. in
Yeah,
my
who
house.
would? It's
Why
terrible.
would you?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't have Jello.
Yeah.
I wanted to make you Jello today
Yeah.
and bring
Maybe I
you
just need
Jello.
to bring it down to a cooler temperature.
Wait, but
Maybe
what
I
do
should
you
give this
really
one-
do? What do you really do?
Oh, for Shabbat.
Yeah.
So normal Shabbats are hours long and require a lot of work.
That's too much for me.
Well, it's not necessary.
Yeah,
It's just not what the point of it is. So
Yeah.
for me, I was like, what do we make Shabbat be about? And ultimately, I was like, our kids are going to get older and they're not going to want to spend time with us.
Yeah.
Just innately what happens. Too bad, so sad. On Friday night, you're going to have dinner with us.
Right.
That's all, right?
Yeah.
So like that to me was like Friday night, we're all going to get together and we're all just going to talk. And we're going to talk about the week and nobody's going to want to talk. My boy's probably going to want to play video games. My girl's going to shun me. But on Friday night, we're all going to sit down and we're going to look each other in the eye and say, I love you. And what did you do this week? What did you do this week? Just reconnect for a minute, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the long haul of it.
Yeah.
So right now, with the attention span of gnats, which is
Yeah.
what our children have, our Shabbat is 5 minutes long, and it consists of you light 2 candles. In the religious aspect of it, it's like one's for the mom, one's for the dad, right? You light the light, you combine the light, you say a nice little prayer, you say a prayer for your children, you say a prayer
You
for...
guys all do speak that it's Hebrew, the prayer, right?
The prayers are in Hebrew, yes.
Yeah,
I only say the lighting of the candles prayer,
Oh,
the
okay.
rest Ashton says.
But doesn't Wyatt? She knows.
She
the whole
knows them,
thing.
yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
She knows them, and so does Bear now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
They don't know what they're
I don't
saying,
even know that he
but-
can talk. I mean,
It's just repeating. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Okay,
He's just
okay.
saying same sounds over and over. Exactly.
Right.
It's like a good little trick. Like
Yeah.
a party
Yeah.
trick. Like say your Shabbat prayer. But we say the prayer for that. We say the prayer for the bread. We do a couple blessings. It literally is minutes long. And then we just apologize for whatever we did that week that upset one another. And then
very
you just kind of
nice.
just move, you're just done. So in
Yeah.
our relationship and however many years we've been together, there's been no resentment. Like there's no version of Monday that correlates to the past Friday.
Yeah,
Or
that's
Thursday.
lovely.
I think a lot of people in relationships have a big giant vault in their head, and they're like, "Ooh, I'm going to put that in the vault.
I don't
One
have a
day I'm
vault.
going to open this door, and I'm going to let all this out."
But do
and
you-
that's cancer.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
If I have an issue, for instance, sometimes I think that he's driving a little too close to the curb.
Sure.
And so that's like a small issue that you know what I mean? If I'm like,
You're currently wrestling with.
like the
Yeah.
curb is right there. You're clearly
Yeah.
too close. And he's like, I clearly have been driving longer than you.
Okay.
And we're, but I will always say it.
Yeah.
I'll never not say like, here's the thing, babe. This is making me fucking crazy.
If you say you're too close to the curb,
Yeah.
you're going to be saying that for the rest of your life, and he's going to always have an argument against why he's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go, honey, I'm so scared.
Oh, yeah, I've
when
done
you're-"
that. Yes,
You have.
yeah. And he
that
stops.
doesn't stop it?
Yeah, of course.
That does stop it, right?
Yeah, of course. Because
if
when I
your
was-
lady ever tells you
Then it makes
her
me
emotion, you'll fix it.
He does-
But if you
he-
tell me I'm not in command of this vehicle,
Yeah.
girl, I could get within a fucking sheet of paper of that curb and not hit it. Now we're arguing the
Semantics.
Yes.
So I only brought that up because I was remembering when I was pregnant, I was like, "You're trying to kill me. You're trying to kill
right,
me."
which is about the worst thing you could say.
And so
yeah,
he was like, "All right, okay." So now he makes sure there's like a specific part and mole hole, and that he very obviously
swings out for.
And I
Because
was
he
like,
wants you
"Thank
to feel safe.
Yeah. But I've always been very much if I'm unhappy about something in a
you're gonna hear
relationship
it.
or friendship, I will always, not for reasons other than like, let's just clear this
Air
up
it
really
out.
fast. Because I've
Yeah.
been in places where I haven't.
Yeah.
And then I get resentful of it, and then I expect them to read my mind.
Yes.
And, be a psychic and know that I'm
We all
resentful.
do. We really think our partner should read our mind.
Yeah, and I
It's
don't
not
like
fair.
to be passive aggressive to me is like a giant pet peeve. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of passive aggressiveness comes from that. I think people that are passive aggressive towards one another
Yes.
because they don't actually want to acknowledge the problems.
Yes.
Anyways, I don't
Yes,
like
you're-
being passive aggressive.
I don't find you to be passive aggressive.
I'm
I
not.
think you're very upfront.
I am.
Mila, this has been a long time coming. I think I speak for Monica and I when I
Guys.
say we loved it.
Yeah.
And we're so
Was I the
excited.
longest one
A
so far?
plus.
My mom was about 25 hours.
It's on par.
It's a good
Yeah.
one.
Really good.
But our first armcherry here. And I think that
Yeah.
deserves some kind of coronation. I'm going
guys
to
are
prepare some
very
Jello and
popular.
have sex with it in the open air bathroom.
Oh my
to
God. And I have to
commemorate.
pee again. And so now I'm like, do I just go and pee again
Absolutely.
in this bathroom?
And then I'll be in shortly thereafter. Mila,
Yes,
I
Dax.
love you.
Thank you. Love you.
Everybody, please, please, please go see The Spy Who
I
Dumped
forgot
Me.
that I was promoting a movie. I got to be honest with you. This was so nice.
Well, I wish you luck on all of this travel you have coming up. And all right, I love you. Thanks for coming. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
And now begins my favorite part of the show. Fact check. Monica and Pat. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on. That's how they used to start UFC fights. Maybe they still do. Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar.
Are you ready to check me?
Yes,
With
sure am.
facts?
Yes, sir. I started by saying, because you told her that I don't pee very much, and I said, yeah, I'm like a camel. And then we were questioning whether camels pee.
The peeing habits of a camel.
Right. And I could not really, there wasn't much to be said on how often they pee, but their pee can be as thick as syrup because they retain so much water,
Wow. Okay, so it's just like a maple syrup dribbling out.
basically.
I hope it's not a lot of maple syrup.
Well,
I think you're right in that they must not pee a lot
They
because
can't.
they can't be letting that water out.
Exactly.
They got to recycle it and recycle it until you get a deep, thick amber paste.
correct.
What is it that the mosquitoes get frozen in? Is it amber? Like from Jurassic Park, the book. That's how they discovered the DNA for the dinosaur. A mosquito had bit a dinosaur and got frozen in amber. And
Sounds right to me.
okay,
Sounds right.
feels right.
Camels can drink up to 40 gallons of water at a time.
Woo!
And the reason they can go so long without water is because their red blood cells are oval shaped.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They can resist 17 days without drinking water under a scorching heat.
That's a great asset to have if your habitat is the desert. I mean, I guess
It's
that goes without
optimal.
saying, but
Yeah.
it's pretty ideal.
Yeah. Really worked out well for them. Serial podcast. We talk about that a little bit. And
About
it's
Adnan?
It's such a good podcast. If you have not heard Serial, then go die.
Or this. Well, hold on now.
Well-
Don't go die. Go listen to Serial.
Or
But
one or the other.
And then the spinoff. They have a spinoff which is S Town. Mm-hmm.
Also fantastic.
Really, yeah, it's really enjoyable.
But Serial original,
The Adnan
season 1.
story.
Yes.
I got asked by a lot of folks on Twitter because we had mentioned it before, and they know we disagree, and so people were wondering where
What we disagreed upon.
Yes, and I've been honest about that, which is
What did you say?
you think he's innocent, and I think he's guilty.
No, you are saying that, and I'm not even. ugh,
Sorry, I thought that's what your position was.
no,
What's
we've
your position?
We've had this conversation so often where I say that is not my position.
You
is
just
that,
say he had an unfair trial.
yes,
Yeah, that's true.
and that I don't really care if he did it or he didn't do it. He shouldn't be in jail right now.
Okay.
based on his trial.
Okay, but could you say whether you think he did or didn't? Do you have a gut feeling about it?
It's
okay
I
if
know.
you're wrong. Well, I mean, it's okay if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I don't feel terrible because I think someone's guilty.
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know, but I wasn't
You'd be a
so
perfect
focused
juror.
on that.
They should get you on the jury.
I'm a very good juror.
yeah. You need to
I've
be
done
proven
it before, and I
beyond the shadow
could
of a
do it
doubt.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. The burden of proof. It's real. Mm-hmm. Okay. The World of Warcraft podcast she did is called One of Swords podcast.
One of Swords.
Yeah.
That sounds like a play on words, but I can't think of what the original cliche would be.
Yeah.
One on swords. Is there like some famous one on swords? That's a mystery to me.
I don't know, but you're
It
right.
feels like it's being cute,
it does.
but I don't know what it's referencing.
One of Swords. It might be
One of
something in World of Warcraft or some,
probably.
some reference to
Most
something.
likely.
So if you if you want to check that out, you can.
Do it.
You mentioned you were on a writing vacation, and so I think that could be confusing for people. But you go before when you would do projects writing, WRITING.
Oh, you think it sounded like
It did sound like
RIDING.
It did sound like that. I just happened to know that what you were talking about.
That's a common thing that comes up in my voice dictation on my text messages. Because I do use the word writing a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a low probability word, so they always go to writing. Yeah. Or I don't pronounce it correctly.
You're when you pronounce it, you're saying writing with a D.
Writing. Yeah. I got to do some writing.
Yeah, as opposed to
That
writing.
one was on the fence. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting about voice dictation? It really teaches you how you speak,
Yeah. Yeah.
clues you in.
There's all these times where we thought we were going to throw in the towel, like, oh, now that there's computers, kids won't read anymore. And what's ironic is kids probably write more now than they've ever written because texting's so popular. It really kind of brought back writing.
But not grammatical writing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't put too high of a standard on grammatical writing. If you're communicating, I think the goal of communicating is
guess so.
communicating. The other shit is like highbrow, hoity-toity, want to delineate between classes. I think it's intrinsically a little, it's a measure. You know me, I got a chip on my shoulder about fancy people, so
Yeah.
maybe it's my own
I
issue.
think it's good to have some sense of grammar.
Well, there is a difference
But I don't
between
know
having a
why.
sense of it and then choosing to disregard it. Like if you're speaking
Yeah.
with your friends in a specific way.
Yeah, I'm
that
not
you
saying
know is.
I'm not saying people should be texting grammatically,
Right.
but
But if they
in
write
lieu
totes
of
obs, that's great. I'm glad that they have shortened totally obvious to totes obs or whatever.
yeah.
I support that.
When I was in middle school, I abbreviated everything before it became a thing.
Well, you did. Do you think you started the?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
The one thing I
I do
love
think
most
that.
about the fact check is we can count on one brag. And it honestly is my very favorite part.
I tried to do it without bragging, and then you asked.
I asked you if you invented abbreviating.
Yes, I just said I used to abbreviate everything, which I did. It was
Oh,
a
and then
thing
I
that
asked
my
if you
friend
had
and I did.
invented it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just trap me. It's not really my fault.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, I sent you a photo of it. I was heartbroken. I was either heartbroken or incredibly flattered to see that someone has a boat, D's Knots.
Mm-hmm.
Someone sent me a photo of a boat on a trailer traveling down the highway, and on the
Yep.
back it said D's Knots. Now, I will say the sticker looked really new to me. I
know you-
want to believe it would be more comforting to believe that the person heard D's Knots on the Sedaris episode and ran out and named their boat
Do you
D's
think
Knots.
that's what happened?
I mean, sure, we could have independently come up with that clever name, but I'd prefer that than just I had an idea that felt so unique that many other people have had.
I'm gonna let you believe what you want to believe.
You think that
Of-
boat's been
of
D's Knots for
course.
years?
Of course.
Oh, wow. Now, there's a tone in your voice.
sorry,
This
but-
I'm silly to think I was the
Well-
only one that thought of D's Knots.
I think it's silly to think anyone is the first to think up anything.
Okay, that's fair.
Right?
Well, banana grundle. You think other people have referred to a gusset
It's
as banana
possible.
grundle?
Hopefully not, but it's possible.
Well, if there is another person that calls it a banana grundle, I feel like I should be married to that person. Like that feels
True.
like star-crossed lovers.
Well, because when
I should hang with the guy who owns D's Nuts.
You should.
Or girl
it could be your new best friend.
/ side piece.
know.
You know?
Yeah.
What was a hot broad?
Well,
Like Pamela Anderson in the 90s is the owner of D's Knots boat.
great.
That would really put it over the top,
Yeah.
I think.
Sure would. Well, that's like Sedaris said. That whole conversation started because he said he created a word.
Yes, the armor, the underpants, but it was
Gunderpants.
Gunderpants, yes.
Yes, and in college, I created a product called
Gold Bond?
Gold Bunderwear.
Gold Bunderwear.
Yeah.
What's that
Which
product?
is where Gold Bond is like getting released in your underwear.
Oh. They're
Yeah,
like,
I made it for boys. It has nothing to do with me,
you're
but
not a need of your own.
no. But a
And
boy,
it was like a time release Gold Bond.
yes.
Okay, and the panties came preloaded with a dose of Gold Bond.
Yeah.
Were they disposable or you reloaded them? Did they have
I think
like
you
cartridges?
reloaded, yeah.
Okay.
Although now, it was a silly invention, but now it could easily be an invention because they have like period underwear.
Ooh, sexy. Tell me more about period panties.
Okay.
By the
They're
way,
pretty self-explanatory.
can I just say one thing about the word panties? I hate it when it's in reference to female underwear. I love using it in reference to men's underwear panties.
You don't like it in reference to female underwear?
No, it sounds very pervy, which is really funny because I'm a pervert.
Yeah, I'm shocked by
But
this.
I hate if I overhear like an adult telling their child to go get their
Oh, well,
panties.
yeah,
It makes me
ew.
want to throw up.
Well, it's sexual.
It is innately sexual.
But you don't like
right?
it in a sexual way?
No, panties. It sounds like
Really?
something like a pervert who buys women's panties in the mail and then masturbates with them.
What do you call them?
Undergarments, unmentionables, underwear, mostly underwear. Or if it's for a guy, panties, male panties. I'll ask if I go to a department store where your male's unmentionables or male's panties are.
I feel like no.
Like I
you
really want to
say
refer.
it.
I really want to refer to MeUndies as panties.
I know we're not
So
allowed.
bad, but I don't think that they would approve of that. But I do call them MeUndies panties.
But when you're making a joke, in a story, you'll say like, she needed to change her panties. You say that.
I always say pants. Like I'll say, bring a backup pair of pants, or you're going to need to change your pants. I'll never say you're going to need to change your panties. That would make me feel like a Mr. Burns pervert.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've heard it, but I
Panties.
feel like I've heard you say
Ooh,
it.
wear nice panties. Ooh.
Well,
it's
ew,
really,
I mean-
it's up there with the word plethora for me.
Well, also
Panties.
So
A
don't tell
plethora of
people to
panties.
wear nice
Panties.
underwear
Ew.
in general. Okay. DEFCON 1.
Yeah.
What?
I know I use it wrong, but I use it intentionally wrong. Is
'Cause
that
it
what you're
should
gonna
be the
say?
opposite?
It is the opposite. Like the common colloquial is to say DEFCON 5, meaning the highest alert. But in reality, the DEFCON system 5 is most safe.
Yeah.
And 1 is scariest. But it
No.
sounds weird. It's counterintuitive to say we were at DEFCON 1. You feel like 5's bigger than 1.
No,
so
you said DEFCON 1.
I used it correctly that
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, I'll say DEFCON 5.
Oh,
Because I think in general people don't know the DEFCON system. and
right.
it
That's
sounds
what I'm
more
going to
panicky.
tell them what it is.
Okay.
5 graduated levels of readiness for the U.S. military.
And this was all during the nuclear
States
crises
of
the
alert.
80s, yeah.
It increases in severity from DEFCON 5, least severe, to DEFCON 1, most severe.
Don't you disapprove of that system?
No,
wish they
I
would have reversed
don't.
it.
I think 1 makes total sense.
it does.
Yes. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I
5's always more than 1, though, right?
well,
and you're thinking of it being more scary. Tornadoes ascend the scale like a T5 or whatever. The only system I know about that it increases in intensity as you go lower in numbers is this stupid DEFCON system.
what about
What about grades of burn?
I was
that.
that was what I was just about to say.
Yeah, 3rd degree burn,
Third
first degree.
first degree burn is the worst, I believe.
Yeah, and 1st degree murder is worse than 2nd degree murder. But that to
Exactly.
me feels like you're getting closer to something. But I guess you're getting closer to nuclear annihilation.
Death, yeah.
All right. I still
In
don't
all
like
of
it.
these cases, death.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You better bring a backup pair of panties because it's getting to DEFCON 1.
See, you love
It's
to
so
say
gross.
it.
No, I don't. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
A little bit of an outburst from Monica there. Some kind of declaration. I don't know what it was, but it was strong and heartfelt. That was a DEFCON 2 sneeze.
It was not big.
You're right, it was
was
it was weak.
tiny. I don't have big sneezes. You have
Unfortunately.
terrifying sneezes.
Jeez, thanks. Yeah.
You do.
I
Sometimes
do.
they really scare me.
Yeah, they're crazy. They are crazy. Also, have you ever heard me throw up?
Yes, I have.
It's
quite
It
loud.
sounds like someone is wrestling a cow to their death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's loud. And your sister has the tiniest sneeze of anyone I've ever met in my life.
Probably as a reaction to growing up with me with this obnoxious sneeze.
And she says your mom has a similar sneeze, so
Yes.
so hers is in reaction to that.
Yeah,
She
my
told
mom
me.
does have a fuck of a sneeze. It's an earth.
Yeah. Well,
It's a ground shaker.
you get it from her. So to clarify, I just want to clarify because we talk about Annie and Kristen and all that. Kristen's name is Kristen. It's
Yeah.
Kristen Annie Bell. But, or is it Anne? Kristen Ann Bell is what it is. And Ashton's middle name is Ashton.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that. She just went by her middle name for so long.
Because she didn't like Kristen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she changed her mind,
Yeah.
I guess, as people do.
I wonder if Annie Bell would have taken off as much as Kristen Bell.
I think it would. I think it would have been the same.
You think
I don't
so?
believe in that.
What if her name was Margaret Poo Poo Pants or something? That
think
would have
even-
gotten in the
even
way.
more so.
You think so? Well, that's
It's
true.
unforgettable. That's for sure.
You seen this new actress, Margaret Poo Poo Pants? You'd go, wait, have I seen her? You would immediately either know if you've heard of them or not.
Of course. And I'd be
Peter
like, wait,
Poo Poo
who's
Pants.
that again? Is that the one?
Is he in Top Gun? No. That's Gregory Splash Pants.
Okay. At what age do memories start forming? So there's this phenomenon.
Phenomena? Is that what you're debating?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Is phenomena plural?
I almost feel like phenomena is singular and
But I don't
phenomenon
think
is
so.
plural.
It's a phenomenon. That's definitely singular.
Okay.
Anyway, there was an Oprah. There's an episode of Oprah. I think she was talking to J.K. Rowling.
Oprah Poopy Pants?
Yes, you know her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was talking to J.K. Rowling, I believe, and she said the word phenomenon 30 times in this interview, and
wow.
she was pronouncing it phenomenon.
Because she's English?
No, Oprah was.
Oh, Miss Poopy Pants.
Oprah Poopy Pants was saying it so often and so bizarrely every 2 or 3 seconds, and Anthony and I really got a big kick out of that. Now I have a hard time reading it and not saying it like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like laboratory. Or
Right.
advertisement.
Sure. Strange phenomenon known as childhood amnesia. So kids can remember events before the age of 3 when they're small, but by the time they're a bit older, those early autobiographical memories are lost.
Ooh.
So they do have the memory when they're little. That's that, which is interesting, and then it goes away.
Which is sad for a parent.
Well, it's okay.
It is okay, and what I tell myself is the important thing is that I remember.
Yeah, you remember.
But it's nice when the person you love can reflect back on this loving moment you guys had together, and then you can maybe reminisce on it. And
But remember,
connect.
we just had this conversation last week about the hugging and the spilling of the drink, and you said that you get nervous that
Because I
judge-
think it's so important to share memories. That's exactly why I'm nervous. Is I recognize the value in it, and I'm sad that I can't meet you there sometimes, and it makes me feel bad.
But you also it doesn't mean you don't.
Love you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's the same thing. It doesn't mean just because they don't hold the memories that
Yes.
the impact isn't there.
Yeah.
Okay, but so new research has put the starting point for amnesia at age 7.
Amnesia.
Kid amnesia. So early memories that you really have, they're saying now don't start till 7.
Oh Jesus! So I shouldn't take the girls anywhere
No,
for another.
you can really
few
phone it in
years.
for a couple more years.
Then pick up the pace in a couple years.
Yep.
That's good to know.
Scientists have long wondered about the cause of this baffling memory loss and thought that language development might have something to do with it. But even rats and other animals show a similar amnesia without language abilities. So some Canadian researchers floated a possible cause that the precipitous growth of new cells in the hippocampus during infancy, known as neurogenesis. When brains are busy growing lots of new cells, they don't store memories that would otherwise be long term because they're
Okay.
creating so many.
All right.
So Yeah, so that's that. Oh my God. Okay, so the movie she did, Make-A-Wish Molly, where she was the Hispanic girl.
Yeah.
I watched a clip of it on YouTube,
Oh, you
and
did?
everyone should watch that immediately. It's so amazing.
In
Just-
what way? In how
well-
it's aged?
Yeah, it's well. Look, from
Well,
in this
look.
clip, it's this girl Molly, who definitely is Russian, by the way.
Okay.
So we don't need to
That's
feel
good.
too like it. She was a Russian girl.
Okay.
It's her only credit on IMDb.
Okay. So good thing she got it.
Exactly.
But then what is the part that's so startling
Okay, so
that we
she
can
ki-
wet
so-
people's whistle with?
So the clip is Molly at a birthday party, and she is going to eat some cake, and then she changes her mind. You hear a Russian voice in her head.
Okay.
She changes her mind, and then the kids are like, "Why aren't you eating that cake?"
Uh-oh, is it something to do with the covenant with Yahweh?
It is a Jewish thing, yeah.
She's
and
keeping kosher?
it's Passover,
Oh, okay. Okay.
so she can't. But Mila's character is
Free to eat the shit out of that cake? Or just mean to her?
so mean.
Oh.
I mean, so.
Is she using racial pejoratives, ethnic pejoratives?
Yes. She says, Molly, why? Oh, they said, Molly, why aren't you eating the cake? And Mila said, I know why Molly won't eat, because Jews won't eat at Christians' houses. And if a Christian eats at a Jew's house, Jews spray the place afterwards and throw the silverware in the garbage,
Oh.
which is not true. She was just a mean bitch of a girl.
Did she look, was she passing as Hispanic, did you think?
Kind of.
Yeah. Latina?
Yeah. And she was.
Did she have a little accent or anything?
No.
No, she was
Not
just
that
a
I-
Latina born here in the U.S.
I mean, I guess that's the backstory. I don't know
In
if they
the
go
USA?
into it. I only saw one small clip.
Okay.
Okay, so she said for that 70s show, they knew her age before she went to network. And so for people who don't know, that is during the audition process.
For TV.
For TV, exactly. First you normally go in and you audition for a casting director, and then if they like you, they bring you back to read for producers, and then sometimes you have to go in again for producers, and then the final step in the audition is to read for the network, so ABC or whoever, whatever studio is making that show. And you go into a big room and
they make you sign your contract before you go.
yeah, so you know what your life could be like for the next 10 years or whatever. And then you go in and it's in normally a big, large space and filled with very important people, and it's stressful.
Oof. You've done that, yeah.
No, I've never done it. I almost
never
got
done
to
it.
do it. but I
Oh,
didn't.
yeah. You had a network audition, but it got canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I jinxed it.
No, that's
Probably
because
because I wanted to celebrate so much that you were getting called back to network. It was so exciting,
Yeah,
and I got carried away, and then I jinxed it probably.
it's okay. It didn't go.
The good news
show
is that
didn't
you
go.
didn't go. Well, A, the show didn't go. B, you didn't go and not get cast.
Right.
They cast them before you even got there, which is I
Yeah.
think is a little better.
Yeah. It wasn't because anything I did, so that is true. And she also mentioned a studio teacher. If you're underage on set, there's a teacher there that teaches you school, and it's required by law. So she also mentioned that her parents were really generous and did not take any of her money while she was working as a kid. So in Los Angeles and New York, there is a law called the Coogan Law.
Yeah. After a little boy actor, right?
Yep. His parents took all his money. So this is a law for child performers designed to safeguard a portion of their earnings for when they enter adulthood. So the law requires a child actor's employer to set aside 15% of the earnings in a trust, often called a Coogan account. And yeah, but so that's only 15%.
I thought it was higher than that.
So technically, your parents can still spend the rest of that money.
Yeah, that's a little troubling.
I know.
Also troubling that Steve Coogan could just maybe withdraw from these accounts.
Yeah,
Comedian
if
Steve Coogan.
if your name is Coogan, you have access to any of the
Any
Coogan accounts.
Yeah, there's a ton of them too.
One of those little loopholes.
Yeah.
So Family Guy got canceled shortly after the third season. which had aired in 2002. It only got actually canceled once, but it had like a really weird run of like a couple episodes here, then nothing, and then some episodes here. It just like had a very, very weird thing for a while. But then it got canceled one time.
And now it's like the second most successful cartoon ever, right? Behind the Simpsons.
I don't know, but yes,
think
it's
so.
very obviously
Very
incredibly
profitable.
Very.
It's a cash cow, is what you say.
The Pink video with Channing the song is called Beautiful Trauma. The Defiant Ones is a documentary on HBO, 4-part documentary about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and it's very, very, very good.
Very tasty.
Yeah, it's
Inspirational.
worth watching for sure. You talk about the Jello, and that's based off of Real Genius, you said. And then you said...
I got the name wrong. I can think of
Yeah.
it now. I couldn't think of it when I was telling the story, but let me guess. Was his name Kent?
Yes.
Fuck. And what did I call him? Well,
Chet.
yeah, I blew it. I knew I was blowing it too. And I tell that story better usually, but that fucked me up that I couldn't think of Kent in the moment.
Yeah. He says, what about that time I found you naked with the bowl of Jello? But he doesn't say his name, so you don't have to incorporate that. But his name is Kent.
And it's a good name for that character too.
Yeah.
You imagine Kent lowering his panties and just having that bowl of Jello.
Gross. Yeah. I thought for a second maybe Chet was a nickname of Kent, and I didn't know.
Well, what's really funny is what I also had a hard time doing is that movie was called Real Genius, right? And there's another movie that I always confuse the title with, and it's called Weird Science.
Oh, that's what I thought.
And the bad guy in Weird Science is Chet.
Oh, that makes sense. I also got those two confused in my head when you were talking about this.
Yes.
Because isn't Robert Downey Jr. in Weird Science?
That's where I first developed my
Yes.
obsession with Robert Downey.
Right.
Yeah, and that was Anthony Michael Hall, and I forget the other guy's name. They invent a woman. They like Frankenstein a woman, and she's got powers, and
Yeah.
she changes their lives. And Chet, who we remember, the lovely actor. Do you remember Chet? How about,
I've never seen it.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
But how about the Mormon show that was on HBO?
Sister Wives?
And he was also in
Big Love?
Big Love. And
Okay.
he was also in Titanic.
Oh. Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, the older guy. He was the dad in Big Love. He was married to all the women. Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton was Chet. It was one of his first roles.
Was Bill Paxton in Titanic?
Yes, he's a part of the investigative team that's doing the modern day dive that they're
really?
reflecting back on. He was also in the tornado movie Twister.
Yes, that I know.
More than all that, he was a sweet dude, and he died prematurely last year. Yeah, it was very sad
that is
because he was a real sweet dude. I got to bump into him a few times.
Look, I tried to find this out and I couldn't really, but I feel pretty certain in saying that Jello cannot reveal venereal disease.
That the dye won't
dye
attach itself to
an
like some
STD.
lesions that were unseen prior.
No.
Were you tempted at all to call Bree to get her side of the story? Did it cross your mind like, should I?
No.
Like a article in the New Yorker where you'd call
And follow up?
and see if like this holds water.
No, because the Brie portion of that story is small.
Yeah. But it is that she offered me Jello several times over the years.
Sure.
And I declined.
Sure.
And she was growing suspicious of why I had so much Jello. If
Why didn't you just throw it away?
Because I couldn't waste it. Now I could, because you know my position now on waste. But back then it was different.
Even though you were wasting it. Did you think in your head, maybe one day I'll eat it?
Yeah, or someone will come over who loves Jello,
Oh.
and I just once it's in the trash, I know that it served no purpose.
Sure. Did you ever think like I should just try it one more time?
No, because I knew I didn't like it from when I was a kid. Every now and then on a salad bar.
No, I mean with your penis.
Oh, to fuck it again?
Yeah.
No, I was pretty demoralized by the whole experience. And then it landed me in a free STD clinic. Like, God knows what would have happened the second time. it's as bad of an sexual experience as one could have. That you try to make love to something that doesn't work. You feel like an idiot, and then you get an STD from it. That's as bad as it can go. I mean, I didn't get an STD, but I did get a rash from it.
Yeah.
I would say it's my worst sexual experience.
Whoa. That's good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin Thoreau body fat. You said 5%. I obviously don't know. It's obviously not a number on the internet. No one's saying. But they did, GQ said he's 5'9", maybe 160 pounds, 0 body fat.
Wow.
Carved out of marble is what it says. So,
well, you know what I'm basing that on is the best I've ever gotten to in When in Rome was 6% body fat. And he seems to be leaner than me in that movie. And I don't know that you can really go much under like 4. I don't think anyone.
we should ask Charlie.
We should ask Charlie. He would know. Charlie Curtis, my physical idol.
Yeah.
The perfect 10 calendar.
He's the calendar.
People sometimes look at the pictures on Instagram and they wonder what's happening in the background. There's a lot of questions about the white board behind us, the dry erase board. And that is really comprised with, long before we ever had one of these podcasts, we just put down like a bunch of names as a dream list. So that's what you're seeing there. And we've gone through some of those to my delight.
Yeah.
And then you're also seeing just my own personal things I'm trying to do is pack for Glamis for Thanksgiving, which happened a year ago. Androgen is a place I wanted to go get my testosterone measured.
Okay.
And some TV projects I'm working on. But yeah, it seems to be of interest to a very small percentage of armcherries.
If they've seen the calendar in the window, that is a pinup calendar I made for Dax of our friend Charlie every
who I'm so
month.
obsessed with, right?
Yeah, you're too obsessed with him.
Too, right?
Yeah.
Why do you object to the obsession? Because you just want me to like myself?
Yeah, like what?
What's with this obsession?
Yeah, I don't think it's healthy to fetishize a body like that. That's not yours because you're never going to have that body.
Says you. If I get cast
You're
in a
never
superhero
going to have
movie,
Charlie's body. You
and
have
I do
your body.
But if I do steroids because I have to prepare for a superhero movie, I could for a month or two look like Charlie.
I don't mean your body can't be great.
Okay.
I mean your body is never going to be Charlie's body. Your body at its
challenge
peak.
accepted.
No, you're not hearing me, and this is part of the problem. This is a issue. Your body at its peak could be perfect and wonderful and fully muscular. I don't mean you're never going to be Charlie. I mean you are in your body. He is in his body.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
But I do have a similar endoskeleton. We're roughly the same height in shoulder width. So I feel like I just need to pack on about 35 pounds of muscle.
This is the most dangerous mentality for anyone to have ever.
But wait, you disagree with...
own your body.
Well, I own my body.
I'm just saying.
How dare you? How fucking dare you,
I'm telling
Monica
the
Padman.
armcherries. I don't want them to be looking at a calendar and saying, I could be...
But do you disagree with loving how certain people look? Are you objecting to that? I just love looking at him.
You
There's
don't
so
just
much
love
muscle.
it. You have
I want to
an
wake up,
obsession and a fascination.
preoccupation.
Yes.
I want to walk down the street one day and feel what it's like to be as strong as him and physically imposing. I want to experience it because I just like the aesthetic. I think it's awesome looking. He looks powerful, like he could run through a brick wall and wrestle a lion. I love the aesthetic. 2, I know how miserable working out is. It's so much more miserable, in my opinion, than reading a book and becoming educated. It's like physically painful to work out at the level he's doing. So I'm just in awe of the willpower and commitment it takes to go through that. It's like when people who climb Everest or Travis Pastrana doing backflips, like it's a display of willpower that just I admire.
Yeah.
Because it's painful. It's not an easy display of willpower.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. I just want
You don't want people
I want
to be
to be
unhealthy, to
careful.
look ways that they don't naturally
Yes,
look. And
exactly.
that's very fair. We should all strive to love how we look. That goes without saying.
and I mean, you can be the healthiest version of yourself. Like, you can want
Yeah.
your body to look great.
Well, that's what's a
and-
bummer for me is if I have what I would say is a great diet where like I'm eating very healthy and
Yeah.
I'm eating good amounts of protein and I'm watching all sugars and all these things, which I do just believe is healthy.
Right.
And I'm working out 4 or 5 times a week. My natural body type's to be 185. That's what it is
Yeah.
genetically. I wish that same lifestyle for me was 210.
Right.
I think that would be awesome. But it's not. You're right. That's not my body type.
But yeah, like, look, like, let's put it on me. Doesn't matter what kind of shape I'm in, my body's never going to look like Amy's. Ever.
Amy Hansen's?
Yes.
No, 'cause she's got those big, beautiful bun cheeks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
just
we
wanted
have
to-
different
I just wanted to give her a
bodies.
compliment.
Yeah. We have different bodies.
You're right. You're right. I do you think? Yeah, I guess it's universal male female.
Yeah, I think so. I just want people to be careful.
Okay.
Okay, the river separating Budapest is the Danube.
Does that fucker originate in Germany? I think it might.
Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like Germany's got the Rhine and Danube.
And you were talking about Shabbat, but you said Seder,
Mm-hmm.
and then Seder is the meal that marks the beginning of Passover.
Oh, okay.
That's like once a
That's not every Friday.
no, that's Shabbat. All right, that's all.
Great. Thank you for your continued due diligence.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to publicly acknowledge your workload is greater than mine. You have to go listen and research and bring this up, and I appreciate the time you
enjoy
put
it.
into it. Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
I feel like you've learned some things. But you and I have both learned things we've already forgotten. Remember, there's been
Oh,
things that
yeah.
have come up multiple
Tons.
times in the
Yeah,
I almost wonder at what point your brain just stops.
I know.
I feel like I've gotten there. I just love you.
Me too.
See ya.
Bye.